Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Man writes a diary in Shinigami, Rukia's wife collapses. Chapter 61. And then Shiraki finally realized that he defeated Yoruichi. This also means. Shiraki looked at Sui Feng aside. Sui Feng lowered his head shyly. Shiraki suddenly remembered. Yoruichi said she has a room in the Tower of Superintendents. So, Elbow, come in. Go into the house or something. What does he have to do with me? Under Shiraki's meaningful gaze, Sui Feng stammered rarely. Looking at Sui Feng's shy look, Shiraki couldn't help joking. It doesn't matter why, we agreed at the beginning. Isn't it Yoruichi who hasn't woken up yet? Isn't that only Captain Sui Feng on top? Saying that, Shiraki made a fake sad look. Hey, I knew Sui Feng's words, and they were just to lie to me. How can a person like me be worthy of Captain Sui Feng and Master Yoruichi? Hey, if it wasn't for me, I should transfer to the 4th team. I think Captain Unohana Retsu will definitely take me in, and the 4th team has a lot of girls, and my Kaido is not bad. Isn't it easy to find a wife? After finishing speaking, Shiraki made a gesture to leave. Seeing this, Sui Feng became anxious immediately. Stop, I'm not sure. Maybe Shiraki thought he was joking, but what was Unohana Retsu thinking, Sui Feng didn't know. Sui Feng will never allow Shiraki to leave, especially to Team 4. Oh, Sui Feng's reaction was so intense that even Shiraki himself was taken aback. But Shiraki had a teasing smile on her face. She hugged Sui Feng's waist, and made her look directly at herself. Then Sui Feng, you decided to jump in line. Cutting in line or something. Sui Feng lowered his head, his eyes wandered, he didn't dare to look at Shiraki, fearing that his little thoughts would be seen. But Sui Feng also reacted quickly. No, she is going to give Yoruichi, why is it her turn to be tortured here now? Sui Feng, who discovered the key point, broke free from Shiraki's embrace, and walked towards Yoruichi aggressively. At this time Yoruichi was kneeling with his head bowed, still in a coma. Looking at Sui Feng who came from behind, he couldn't see Ni at a glance. Knowing that in this life, she will never be able to catch up with Yoruichi in certain things, new hatred and old hatred welled up in her heart. Cat, don't sleep. Sui Feng slapped heavily. There was a crisp sound of crack bang bang. Shiraki looked sideways at Sui Feng's ruthless attack. Seeing that Yoruichi's brown skin was flushed, Shiraki hurriedly stopped Sui Feng. No way, no way, if this fight continues, our children will starve in the future. Listening to Shiraki's words, Sui Feng didn't react for a while, and murmured back, I hit Yoruichi, why are our children hungry? Then, Sui Feng's face turned black. Shiraki, are you mocking me? You wait, I will make your future son malnourished. Kill the enemy. Boudoir. Don't. The crazy Sui Feng was caught by Shiraki on the spot. But the words just now were obviously a bit stimulating, even if Sui Feng was captured, he would not give up. Shiraki can only persuade. It's okay, as long as the thinking doesn't slip, there are always more solutions than difficulties. We will work hard in the future, and we will definitely let our children eat homegrown milk. After all, milk is my own peace of mind. Really, Shiraki's words managed to persuade Sui Feng. Really, Shiraki nodded, he was still a little confident in this regard. If it doesn't work, just ask Hogyoku, although using Hogyoku for this kind of thing is pretty outrageous. Okay, as the captain of the 2nd team, Sui Feng's ability to recognize lies is fundamental. Seeing Shiraki's confident look, she also basically believed it. Sui Feng stopped making trouble. Seeing this, Shiraki also let go of Sui Feng slowly. But at this time, the blood gradually subsided, and Sui Feng, whose reason returned to his brain, finally realized what she just said. With a tang, Sui Feng's skin was burning red all over, and his delicate body was stiff, as if he had forgotten how to move as a person. Fortunately, just when Sui Feng was seriously considering whether to kill Bankai and Shiraki together now to cover up her embarrassment just now, a voice came. Yoruichi wakes up. This is. Holding his dizzy head, Yoruichi stood up with difficulty. Looking at the mess around her and the injuries on her body, Yoruichi recalled. In memory, she seems to have been captured. So, I lost, Yoruichi said uncertainly. Yes, you lost. Shiraki nodded. I have to say, you lost too easily in the end. You didn't show the strength you should have at all. Originally, Shiraki prepared not only Bankai but also seeds for Yoruichi's Shunbo, Thunder Beast battle form and Shunlong Black Cat War Princess form. Unexpectedly, after the real fight, Bankai was useless, and Seed was still useless. Just like that, Yoruichi was defeated. And speaking of this, Shiraki also thought about it. Am I too strong? Or is Yoruichi not strong enough in his final form? And his final conclusion is, both. He is indeed strong, and Yoruichi's final form is indeed not strong enough. And BJFC, if you want to make a specific evaluation, you can review the offer. But obviously not now. Shiraki looked at the awakened Yoruichi and raised his eyebrows. Yoruichi tilted his head slightly, puzzled. Shiraki reminded, think about what you said earlier. Yoruichi understood in seconds, and her expression suddenly became very exciting. However, just like Sui Feng, some people swear when they say it, but it doesn't mean she won't be cowardly when facing it. Shiraki's strength Yoruichi has also tested it. She just had a fight, she was sore and weak, and she fought again immediately. Didn't this kill her? Yoruichi grabbed Shiraki's sleeve pitifully, and shook it coquettishly. Hey, I'm injured, and that's just right. Tomorrow is okay. Tomorrow is definitely okay. However, Shiraki just sneers at Yoruichi's pity. Hee. Tomorrow after tomorrow, how many tomorrows are there? You can't run away from today. Shiraki hugged Yoruichi's soft waist firmly, and directly carried her limp body on his shoulders. It's like a hunter who has successfully shot a wild boar. He is going to take the wild boar home. After washing it to make it white and plump, he boils water to pluck the hair, cooks it in a pot, and then invites a few friends to have a big meal. Savor it carefully. But here Shiraki is inconvenient to invite people. He has a big appetite and can eat it all by himself. After the meal, he can add some small desserts. He just needs to drink some honey water to help digestion. It's just that Yoruichi still wants to struggle, even if he's already half-baked. Well, I'm so tired now, it's like a delicacy. If the chef is not serious, no matter how good the ingredients are, it won't be delicious. Why don't you let the chef take a rest? Shiraki continued to sneer. Hee, high-end ingredients only need simple cooking methods. And aren't you tired? Then give you rip and you won't be tired. Don't worry, this is a rest for you. Saying that, Shiraki no longer cared about Yoruichi, but looked at Sui Feng who gloated over Yoruichi's misfortune. Seeing Shiraki's sudden look, Sui Feng thought that Yoruichi really persuaded him to prepare for tomorrow, but today it's her. Sui Feng trembled all over. The problem is that with her small body, she can't do it today. What are you shaking? Seeing Sui Feng shaking suddenly, Shiraki was very puzzled. Forget it, let's get down to business. I don't want to argue with the little fairy Yoruichi, and I'll do it slowly later. When the time comes, I can play and sing, and I can add some percussion. Where is the room that Yoruichi said earlier? Shiraki asked again. Oh, here and here. Sui Feng breathed a sigh of relief, and assumed the posture of Taijin. This side is clear. Seeing Shiraki walking ahead with Yoruichi on his shoulders, Sui Feng took a deep breath to ease his heartbeat. So hanging, I almost couldn't stretch it. Sui Feng took a step forward. But after just 1 or 2 steps, she stopped, with a strange stain on her face. Wrong, this wave of gambling lost, she did not hold back. So, Sui Feng looked at the 2 people in front of him who hadn't noticed him, and was about to change clothes. This has no other meaning, mainly because the current clothes are wet because of Shiraki's water style, making them a little uncomfortable. Sui Feng prepares to sneak away. But before she took a few steps aside, a big hand stretched out and grabbed the back of her head, which could be used as a double ponytail. Shiraki's playful voice sounded, "Where are you going? Come here, you have a share." Carrying one on his shoulder and holding another in his hand, Shiraki walked through the secret path to the top of the supervisory tower in the nest of maggots that had been deliberately cleared. It has to be said that it is indeed the venue used by the 2nd Division team to detain prisoners. There are many institutions inside the Tower of Supervision. Even the secret passage to the lounge needs to enter multiple layers of passwords to open it. And Shiraki didn't show any pity for the beauty, and directly asked Yoruichi to enter the password in front of an electronic screen. However, before entering the password, you need to take out the password disk first. Under Shiraki's coercion, Yoruichi also had to cheer up, and untied a mechanism knot with his head down. I have to say, as the captain of the second team, Yoruichi's ability is not boastful. Playing with all kinds of hidden weapons, her fingers were extremely nimble, and she quickly unlocked the first layer of mechanism and the iron combination disc popped out. However, the appearance of the cipher disk is only the second step, and the next step is the most important and the key. After taking a deep breath, Yoruichi raised his eyes and looked at Shiraki, and she continued to operate after receiving instructions. And here, it is a password in the form of a video game. The game itself is not important, but the actions of the game characters are very important. After questioning Sui Feng and knowing that the password had not changed, Yoruichi grabbed the password disk, which was somewhat uncontrollable. With a slight movement of her, the villain on the screen also started to move. Under the control of Yoruichi's dexterous hands, the villain follows her up and down, and never crosses the mountains when it is said to be over the mountains, and never goes to land when it is said to be in the water. Soon, under Yoruichi's careful operation, as the machine vibrated violently, Yoruichi wiped the sweat off his face, and another layer of mechanism was untied. It's just that it's his turn here. After fighting all day, and struggling to grasp the unmistakable combination disc, Yoruichi's energy is finally exhausted to the bottom. Seeing this, Shiraki had no choice but to take over Yoruichi and operate it himself. But the third level is much simpler. You only need to use a pair of palms to click on the marked position on the screen to get the highest score. Shiraki is not the exhausted Yoruichi. When encountering such a game-like mechanism, Shiraki is also happy to see the game and concentrates on it. Based on the acupuncture method of Hyuga's house in the Hokage gift package, he made shots from time to time, critical strikes every time, and his strength even penetrated the screen and penetrated into the depths of the machine. Soon, the closed keyhole and finally the secret key appeared. Shiraki holding secret. Insert the key into the mouth of the key, twist it hard, and the secret passage that has troubled several people for a long time is completely unimpeded. After going back for dozens of steps, several people came to the room of the Tower of Supervision suddenly enlightened. Seeing this, Shiraki was also refreshed, and even poured a sip of tea for the tired Yoruichi. The tea that had been steeped for a long time seemed a bit strong, but the thirsty Yoruichi didn't care. Seeing Yoruichi's unfinished look, Shiraki was about to pour her another cup, but was politely refused. Shiraki wasn't bothered though. After the big battle, rest was needed, and after making sure Yoruichi got enough rest, Shiraki looked at Sui Feng again. Today, the two people who have arranged all the work in advance have enough time. Shiraki, who still had energy left, couldn't help discussing bee breeding with Sui Feng. Speaking of rising, Sui Feng also showed Shiraki how bees gather honey. In return, Shiraki also talked about how to keep a cat and how to pet a cat comfortably. Years of cat training secrets have been given to Sui Feng without reservation, and Sui Feng is also grateful. One day's communication was not enough. Sui Feng even made an appointment to continue the communication the next day. In this regard, Shiraki is also kind. Thus, the officers and officers of the second team were surprised to find that their captain and vice-captain were all missing. And this emptiness lasted for 3 days. 3 days, do you know what you can do in 1 day? 3 days later, I'm pregnant, sisters. In the Kuchiki house, in the room of the Women's Shinigami Association, Rengoku slapped the table. On the table, Shiraki's diary brick book kept shaking, and then was held down by a slender palm, and then opened. Clatter. There was a rattling sound as the pages of the book were opened, and finally it fell under a specially folded page. Rengoku held up the diary and unfolded it to others, and Shiraki's diary for the past few days appeared in front of everyone. Look, look, Sui Feng's little Geo smells so good. Yoruichi's skin is so smooth. Today's pillow is so soft. Just ask, don't we have these things? Why didn't the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty say a word? Why, people are going to be snatched away. Don't we have the strength to fight? We will be drawn on the head like this. Rengoku said loudly, and seemed to be disturbed by Rengoku's voice. Eyes Nanao frowned, and said lightly, enough, Rengoku, everyone knows about you. If you say the most depressing these days, it is undoubtedly the Women's Shinigami Association. Originally under the leadership of Unohana Retsu, everyone reached a consensus with Sui Feng and his party who took the lead. But I didn't expect Sui Feng to belong to the second team, a ninja, and the ninja will do anything and never care about these things. Not long after reaching a consensus, Sui Feng took Yoruichi backhand to steal the house, regardless of what everyone agreed at the beginning. In the past 3 days, seeing the names and even pictures of Sui Feng and Yoruichi constantly appearing in the diary, the girls felt uncomfortable. Originally, I wanted to wait a while, but seeing the other parties delay in ending, today's girls can't wait any longer. But the problem is, after mouthing Rengoku, eyes Nanao looked at the silent Unohana Retsu. Rengoku's words seemed to be addressed to everyone, but in fact they are only addressed to one person. Because here, only one person has the right to make decisions, and everyone else follows her. It's just that Sister Wa can take it easy, but they can't. Everyone here has an urgent need for points, and they urgently need to solve some things. Even 8,000 streams are the same. And seeing everyone's attitude, Unohana Retsu also understood. Sitting alone in the first seat, Sister Wa narrowed her eyes slightly. It's really not good to eat alone for 3 days. How about this, I'll go directly to the construction team to visit Sui Feng after corner. If nothing else happens, Shiraki will come to us sometime next. The question is, which of you will come? Sister Hua's fierce phoenix eyes swept around, but finally locked on Rengoku. Being locked in by Sister Hua's gaze, Rengoku's pretty face turned pale, but she still resisted. I'm coming. Rengoku gritted his teeth. As for what are they coming for? How Sui Feng came here, of course they came here. Very good. Seeing Rengoku agree decisively, Unohana Retsu finally showed a satisfied smile. However, this is not enough. One more person, Unohana Retsu said calmly. Yoruichi and Sui Feng are 2, so they will naturally have 2. And this candidate, Unohana Retsu's eyes gradually moved to his side. But at this moment, an unexpected voice interrupted her. I'm coming. Ni Yinmeng raised her hand while maintaining her usual state of 3 nonuses. Seeing Ni Yinmeng who raised his hand suddenly, everyone was very surprised. It seems that Yinmeng is not as 3-0 as it is without appearance. Sister Wa realized in her heart. But the Yinmeng of Bu Sanwu made Sister Wa show a satisfied smile on the contrary. Okay, you come. Yongyin, let's go. With Yongyin, Sister Wa embarked on the journey to the second team. However, Sister Wa, who embarked on the journey, didn't know that her journey was probably going to be nothing. Because at the same time, the second squad, Captain Li Gong's office. Shiraki is sitting on a chair in a daze. The person has returned, but the soul has not yet returned. His mind is full of cats meowing and bees flying. Occasionally the kitten gets annoyed looking at the bee, and bites it in its mouth with a pounce, letting the little bee know the fear of a bird seeing a cat. But suddenly, upon hearing something, Shiraki came to his senses and looked at Rukia in shock. What? A living mission, Shiraki, about Karakura town. As Rukia said, her face was very ugly, and her slender fingers were tightly pinching the file bag in her hand, almost tearing the file bag. And when he heard the 3 words Karakura town, Shiraki also entered the state instantly. What happened? Facing Shiraki's question, Rukia was silent for a while, and showed a wry smile. Shiraki, do you still remember that I turned down the task of stationing in this world? Oh, remember. Shiraki touched the long memory from his mind. I remember, didn't you say that someone changed? Who was it at that time? Shiraki asked. He still remembered that he said to ask, but forgot to ask. Madara Meshino, said Rukia. Looking at Shiraki's puzzled eyes, she added, it's the 3rd member of the 11th team, Madara Makaku's younger sister. Oh, Madara Makaku's sister. Shiraki was stunned, but he immediately realized something was wrong. Wait, Madara Makaku has a sister. Yes, Madara Makaku does have a younger sister. Rukia nodded, and she looked at Shiraki suspiciously. Don't you know? Shiraki is a time traveler, how could he not know? Wait, I'll stroke it. Shiraki pressed on his temple. The pairing of Yoruichi and Sui Feng is so boring. As the saying goes, go all out, then decline, and then exhaust. I exhaust and then fill. These days Shiraki is also a little chaotic. After removing the influence of Sui Feng and Yoruichi, Shiraki also turned off. That's right, Madara Mushino, there is indeed such a person. This is the person who, together with Ryunosuke, replaced Yoshinosuke Kuretani and stationed in Karakura town at the beginning of the Millennium Blood War. Therefore, Shiraki was even more puzzled. No, shouldn't it be Yoshinosuke Kuretani who will replace you? To be honest, Shiraki temporarily excluded Kurosaki Ichigo from his world by default when Rukia didn't come to the world. Because Yoshinosuke Kuretani is not a half-baked guy like Rukia. Although it's a bit funny, Yoshinosuke Kuretani's earth element Zanpakuto is a full-time sleeper, and he can run even if he can't beat him, so he will be fine. But now you tell me, it's not Yoshinosuke Kuretani. Yes, that's how it is. Rukia's face was very ugly, if you look at it from the schedule. It's just that I didn't stay there, so Senior Yoshinosuke Kuretani didn't transfer back from the present world to take a rest, and only moved Shino one step forward. And the problem lies in this substitution. Rukia's tone was filled with disbelief. Because she never expected that she didn't even go to Karakura town, what was supposed to happen still happened. Gathering his mind, Rukia said slowly, Madara Mushino, who replaced me and went to station in Karakura town, seems to have given the power of Shinigami to humans. What? Listening to Rukia's words, Shiraki was also shocked. So now Central 46 orders the 2nd team and the 11th team to jointly arrest, go to the present world, and capture the prisoner, Madara Mushino. Rukia said weakly, this is powerlessness against fate. But looking at Shiraki in front of her, and the previous experience of her successfully proving herself in front of Byakuya Kuchiki, Rukia was reminded again. In any case, she is no longer the weak and ignorant Rukia, she holds the stronger code in her hand. Rukia asked seriously, Shiraki, what do you say? This mission. Shiraki thought seriously. Madara Mushino started the mission and was discovered in less than 10 days, which is too fast. I remember that Rukia also missed the mission after performing the mission seriously for a period of time. Then after the miss, Rukia supported Kurosaki Ichigo for another week or two before being caught back by Byakuya Kuchiki and Aburai Renji. Of course, Rukia's strength and background are not comparable to Madara's. After Rukia was discovered, Eijiro Nishido covered her up for a while, but it wasn't too fast. Rukia is still in the process of sending people from the 2nd team to investigate. It's Madara Mushino's turn, so I will omit it directly, and then fast forward to the arrest. Etc. Shiraki suddenly realized something. He looked at Rukia seriously. Where did the order you mentioned come from? Central 46 issued it directly. Yes, it's an order directly from Central 46. Rukia nodded, and showed Shiraki what she was holding. Here is the document. It goes directly to the perfect 2nd team. Next, we have to pass it on for us to go to the 11th team to find someone. And speaking, looking at Shiraki's diary and listening to Shiraki's words, Rukia also reacted. The order was issued directly, without any investigation by our 2nd team. Central 46's big shot, will he still pay special attention to Shino, and send someone to investigate her? Rukia was very puzzled. Because she is also an aristocrat, Rukia is more aware of what a nobleman should do. Among the nobles, there are only a few nobles with a sense of responsibility like Byakuya Kuchiki. Most of the nobles are pretentious insects. How can such nobles pay attention to the ants under their feet? However, Rukia doesn't know, but it doesn't mean Shiraki doesn't know. Rukia's words confirmed Shiraki's thoughts. That's right, so the person who investigated Madara Mushino and informed Central 46 of this matter is someone else. Bozuo thought while rubbing his chin. Central 46 will not pay attention to such a small character as Madara Mushino, but Aizen will. Yoruichi has not been here for a week. If I were Aizen, I wouldn't think that Yoruichi would be arrested so easily, but I need to investigate carefully. Madara Mushino, it may be a byproduct of the investigation. Plus, Madara Mushino's strength is not as strong as Rukia's, so it's understandable to be exposed so soon. In the original book, Aizen slaughtered Central 46 after discovering Rukia. Then he used Kyoka Suigetsu to fake the illusion that Central 46 was still working, and then the fake Central 46 issued orders. Obviously, the same operation should be done here. However, there is still a problem here. Aizen is eager to answer the question, but is Urahara Kazuki also anxious? He should well assist Madara Meshino to hide. Madara Meshino shouldn't be discovered so quickly. Shiraki thought. But Shiraki may never have imagined, Urahara Kazuki, there is really nothing like helping Shino. Because this is the suggestion that Yoruichi passed on through Shiba Kuzuru. Since you can't hide it no matter what, why not let it out? After all, if you want to take it, you must first give it. However, these nights will not be revealed to Shiraki. No matter how much he thought, Shiraki couldn't come up with any results, but decided to give up thinking for the time being. I'll go find Sui Feng and ask her attitude towards this matter. Shiraki stood up and was about to go out. The current Sui Feng should be at the Xingjun training ground to make up for the lack of training for so many days. But at this time, Rukia stopped Shiraki again. Wait, Shiraki, I have something to say. What? Shiraki paused. Rukia bit her lip. If you want to go to this world, can you take me with you? Huh. Hearing Rukia's question, Shiraki was stunned for a moment, but immediately he figured out what Rukia was thinking. Do you think that Madara Meshino is because of your problem? No problem, if I go to this world, I will take you with me. Shiraki promised. Then Shiraki didn't look back and went all the way forward. Rukia's voice came after her. About when will you leave? Soon, Shiraki replied curtly. After all, he has always wanted to go in this life, and he also wanted to meet Kurosaki Ichigo. And there is one more thing. It is said that they cooperated with the 11th team to arrest, so most of the people who went to the first team included Madarame Makaku. That guy is a ruthless person. Even Abarai Renji's idea in the original book is to kill Kurosaki Ichigo directly, let alone Madarame Makaku. Shiraki was afraid that he would not go to the real world to watch this turbulent plot. The turmoil became Madarame Makaku directly slaughtered Kurosaki Ichigo. This is a big joke. As for Madara, the person who gave Shinigami the power is Kurosaki Ichigo. Shiraki has no doubts. In his opinion, Kurosaki Ichigo became a Shinigami. This is an inevitable choice in history, and it is also a fate that has been formed after entering Kurosaki Shinigami's body from the void. The history is long and the general trend cannot be changed. Kurosaki Ichigo became Shinigami is such a general trend. Meanwhile, Shiraki has another idea, and it's about Hogyoku. Shiraki has already experienced the effects of perfect Hogyoku twice. The current Aizen is not the transcendent Benglin, so why can't he take this Hogyoku? It has been decided that when Aizen finally leaves Soul Society, I will fight Aizen at Bipolar Hill. By then, my strength should be enough. Shiraki wrote down his decision in a diary. And looking at his decision, Rukia, Sui Feng, Yoruichi, Rengoku, Unohana Retsu, everyone who saw this was shocked. Shiraki, do you want to challenge Aizen? Help, or stop? A brand new question echoed in the minds of all the girls. Out of concern for Shiraki, they want to stop it, but the time is theirs. But after thinking about it, the girls still came up with the answer. Ask for flowers, help. With their current strength and speed, they may not be able to fight Aizen in the future. We have to work hard. Not far from the second team, Unohana Retsu stopped. For today's conversation, she reframed it. Since there is still a big battle ahead, we can't be aggressive today. But at this time, Shiraki moved quickly, and he had already found Sui Feng. At this moment, because of the refresh of Shiraki's diary, Sui Feng has already found a secluded place to wait. Shiraki. As for the tasks in this world, she and Yoruichi also discussed the results. Now that Aizen has made a move, and Shiraki is ready to compete with Aizen, let's continue. Anyway, their power cannot be hidden. They just need to follow Shiraki's ideas. Soon, Shiraki got her attitude from Sui Feng. Regardless of the tricks of Central 46, the Gregorian calendar. So, after tidying up again, Shiraki took Rukia and went directly to the 11th team. However, what Shiraki doesn't know is that he wants to meet Kurosaki Ichigo, and someone wants to meet him too. Division 12, Monitoring Room. In the eyes of outsiders, the monitoring room is empty at this time, and all the machines are just in daily operation. However, in fact, there are already people in the monitoring room, and all the machines are fully operational. Looking at the screens in the room, and the two figures of a man and a woman appearing on the screen, Aizen pushed his glasses. The pure white reflection of the lens made it difficult to see his expression clearly. Only a faint whisper sounded. Shiraki, you used to be the object of my focus. You are like a robot with no emotions, even if I have never seen it before. But it's a pity that such attention was finally withdrawn because of your unknown name. I just thought you were just a special soul, but I didn't expect me to miss you from the beginning. Yes, why did I forget? Common soldiers don't have the lifespan of an officer, and the lower the spiritual power, the faster they age. But you are still the same as you were at the beginning. If it wasn't for Yoruichi's incident, if it wasn't for Hinamori's report not long ago, I wouldn't have noticed that so many female captains and vice captains have started to revolve around you. Amazing ability. Speaking of which, I'm really relieved. A cold light flashed in Aizen's eyes. And under the cold light, there was even a trace of shock and anger hidden. A week ago, he didn't do anything, and suddenly the news came that Yoruichi was captured by Sui Feng. For the sake of caution, Aizen did not choose to intervene, and was going to see the follow-up. Then, Yoruichi was imprisoned in the 2nd Division's maggot nest, like a mouse in a granary. Only then did Aizen suddenly realize that he was tricked by Urahara Kazuki. As the weak side, Urahara Kazuki's uncharacteristic move is unreasonable, and Aizen will definitely suspect that there is no conspiracy in it. The opponent had predicted that he would be safe, so he sent Yoruichi to return to Jinglingting in an open and honest manner. After all, what is the relationship between Sui Feng and Yoruichi? Will she restrict Yoruichi? At that time, Aizen was excited for a while, praised Urahara Kazuki's wisdom, and then prepared to break it with a backhand. But at this time, a vice captain's inauguration ceremony once again attracted his attention. Hinamori Momo hid in the 2nd team. After seeing how unnaturally popular Shiraki was the whole time, he returned to the 5th team and cried to Aizen. Only then did Aizen completely lock on the name Shiraki, and then launched an investigation. The final results surprised Aizen. What Hinamori Momo said was not a lie. Many Shinigami girls in Jinglingting suddenly turned around Shiraki, and they occasionally had some strange movements. It's like doing a non-physical performance. But from Aizen's point of view, there is something there, he just can't see it. That's interesting. Aizen never expected that there would suddenly be a suspected chess player on this board that had been used for a long time. Hehe, you really surprised me, Shiraki-kun, Aizen murmured. Beside Aizen, looking at Shiraki on the screen, remembering Rengoku approaching in the report, a cold light flashed in Ichimaru Jin's eyes. So, Captain Aizen, do you want me to deal with him? Don't worry, my Kamishini no Yari can definitely get rid of him without anyone noticing. Ichimaru Jin said with some sincerity. However, after Aizen glanced at Ichimaru Jin in surprise, he still shook his head. No, not for now. For Shiraki, observe it first, and then decide how to test it. Currently, Hogyoku capture is our top priority. As he said that, Aizen's voice also carried a hint of ridicule. Or, Yin, are you angry because someone robbed you of your beloved? Hehe. Ichimaru Jin maintained his usual foxy smile. How is that possible? Captain Aizen, I am a snake, cold and ruthless. Really? Then hold back, Silver. Aizen shook his head. Regardless of whether it was true or not, you will have a chance. And, how do you know I didn't make a move, Silver? Quote exclamation mark quote. Hearing Aizen's words, Ichimaru Jin was slightly startled. Have you already made a move? When? How did you make a move? It's really unfathomable, Captain Aizen. Ichimaru Jin sighed in his heart. But Ichimaru Jin still looks respectful on the surface. What did you do? Can you tell me, Captain Aizen? Hehe. Aizen smiled slightly, but didn't say anything more. Sometimes, let the subordinates go down and make up their minds. It is more conducive to his own image construction than speaking clearly. But that doesn't mean he's going to be a riddler. After a few words with Ichimaru Jin, Aizen turned his gaze back to the monitor screen. Ichimaru Jin also followed suit. Looking at a man and a woman who were still on their way, Ichimaru Jin suddenly seemed to think of something. That's right, Team 11 has never been a good place to reason. Specially sent the order to the 2nd team, and then asked Shiraki to notify the 11th team. Captain Aizen, you are really, really wicked, Ichimaru Jin said in a low tone. Facing his words, Aizen did not answer, nor did he move. But everything is left unspoken. After a brief conversation, the monitoring room in the depths of the 12th Division fell silent. At the same time, a man and a woman who were locked had also stopped in front of the gate of the 11th team. Oh ha yo, little Bye Bye. And little Lulu, why are you here? Did Xiao Bye Bye and Xiao Lulu come to the 11th team to play with me? He seemed to be wandering here, but in fact, he was greeted by Yakiru who went out to meet him. The pink-haired loli poked her head out from behind a doorpost, waving her little hands at Shiraki and Rukia. Seeing Yakiru's childish smile, Shiraki's nervousness about Karakura town eased a little. I think so too, but it's a pity Yakiru, I have business to do today. Shiraki said gently. Hey, is it, 053? Alright, Yachinliu made a look of disappointment, but immediately became high-spirited. Then what is Xiao Bye Bye going to do? Let me be the deputy captain of the dignified 11th team to help you. Yachinliu put his hands on his hips, arrogant. PFF'd. Seeing Yakiru's little adult look, both Rukia and Shiraki laughed. Okay. Shiraki couldn't help rubbing her soft pink hair. Then Vice Captain Yakiru, can you take me to Captain Zaraki? Shiraki said with a smile. Our second team has a task, and we need the cooperation of the 11th team. Big man, cute big tits. Yachinliu patted his chest like a steel plate and assured him. Afterwards, Yachinliu walked boldly in front of the two of them. Little Bye Bye, little Lulu, come with me. Under the leadership of Yachinliu, Shiraki and Rukia came to the training dojo of the 11th team unimpeded all the way. At this time, under the watchful eye of Zaraki Kenpachi, the teammates of the 11th team were undergoing daily training. Seeing that Yakiru led two people in, Kenpachi, who was lying on the ground, propped his cheeks with his hands in boredom, sat up, and focused his eyes on Shiraki. He smelled the breath of the strong. This is an opponent who can fight him. If it was in the past, Kenpachi would have drawn his sword and slashed up, but this was brought by Yakiru, so there is no way. Zaraki Kenpachi lay back again. Yachinliu, who are these two people? Xiao Jian, these are my friends, Xiao Bye Bye and Xiao Lulu, they came to us and wanted us to do a favor. Yachinliu said lively. Oh, it's all right, you can arrange it. Zaraki Kenpachi waved his hand. That bored look made Shiraki wonder if he had heard what Yakiru said. However, Zaraki Kenpachi's full pampering of Yakiru is also convenient for Shiraki at this moment. Yachinliu turned around. Tell me, Xiao Bye Bye, what exactly are you going to do? It's very simple, Shiraki said. We are going to go to the real world next, and arrest Madara Mushino who committed a felony. According to the order of Central 46, we come to the 11th team to ask for assistance, and make sure that the prisoner Madara Mushino will not escape. Shiraki clearly conveyed the order from Central 46. However, when his order was conveyed, the gymnasium where the bamboo swords were colliding just now suddenly became quiet, and even the most combative madman realized the change in the atmosphere. Wait, hearing Shiraki's words, Bakion was stunned. Bachinliu blinked, and said with a painful expression, you said, who is the prisoner who is going to be arrested? Master of the 13th Division, Madara Mushino. Shiraki said calmly, that is, the third member of the 11th Division, Madara Makaku's younger sister. Crack. After listening to Shiraki's complete narration again, Yachinliu covered his face with a slap. She is small, playful and greedy, but not without brains. In a monk team like the 11th team, which player really has a younger sister, that is really a big brother who spoils her, it can be called the treasure of the whole team. In such a place, is it serious to say that you want to capture this treasure? Sure enough, the next moment, a roar like a ghost came. Second team, you, say, Ren, you, boom, a reiatsu that was very close to the captain level exploded from a corner of the gymnasium. The true form of Madara Makaku reiatsu holding a ghost lamp pill is constructed behind it, and the angry dragon is flying, fully expressing the dissatisfaction of its owner. Calmly looking at the angry Madara Makaku, Shiraki sighed. He knew that the 11th team would definitely have such a show. But this is an order from Central 46, and he has no calendar. Wait, Shiraki suddenly realized something was wrong. Central 46 can give orders directly to the 11th team, but let our second team pass it on. What does this mean? The adults of Central 46, don't you know that this will cause a fight? Well, Maybe I really don't know. After all, Central 46 knows everything about it. The problem is that the current Central 46 is not Central 46, but Aizen. It is impossible for him not to know this. He knew it clearly, but he did it anyway, that is to say. Shiraki completely understood. Aizen, I did this on purpose. The target is me. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Shiraki was lost in thought. Come to think of it, he also played an important role in the incident when Yoruichi was imprisoned. A person like Aizen who wants to control everything in his hands is only now making a probe, even a bit late. Realizing that Aizen has begun to pay attention to him, Shiraki is also panicked and excited. The panic is because of the name of the person and the shadow of the tree. Shinigami's most successful big boss Aizen's attention is not so enjoyable. Excitement is being able to be followed by Aizen, which shows that Shiraki has really stepped on this big stage. For a while, Shiraki was also full of imagination. It's just that the pensive Shiraki, in the eyes of the others in the 11th team, was dismissive even in the face of Madarame Makaku's questioning. As for the person involved, Madarame Makaku is already outraged. Speak up, Fanzi of the 2nd Division. Madarame Makaku drew his sword suddenly, and the sharp ghost ball slashed at Shiraki. But just when everyone thought there would be a big battle next. Clang! A figure broke in and drew a knife to block Madarame Makaku's knife. Madara Sanshi, please calm down, we are just following orders. Rukia shouted. HMPH, calm down, how can this make me calm? Madarame Makaku growled. But looking at Rukia in front of him, Madarame Makaku suppressed his emotions. I know you are Rukia Kuchiki, right? Renji mentioned it. Although I don't know how you got to the 2nd team, it doesn't matter, get out of the way, the person I'm asking is not you. After speaking, Madarame Makaku sent it all out. With the power of Madarame Makaku, Rukia held on with some difficulty. But even so, Rukia still did not give an inch, tit for tat. HMPH, you drew your sword at my vice captain, how could I get out of the way? What's more, Shiraki is her hope against fate. Rukia is dead, she won't let Shiraki die. The determination was transmitted from Rukia's eyes to Madarame Makaku. Seeing this, Madarame Makaku was both angry and helpless. He can only look at Shiraki behind Rukia. Hey, you guy, don't you just hide behind women. Tell me about my sister. Hearing this, Baida looked at Madarame Makaku. Thanks to Rukia's blocking, Shiraki now has a plan on how to deal with Aizen's temptation. Since Aizen wants to see his strength, let's see. The weak will only be bullied, and only the strong will be feared by others. Get out of the way, Rukia. Shiraki said to Rukia. But, Rukia hesitated. She is a woman, no matter how much Madarame Makaku still cares about it, really get out of the way, won't we fight right away? However, Shiraki was very indifferent. It's okay, Rukia, it's just a Madarame Makaku. Listening to Shiraki's words, Madarame Makaku's eyes widened, and the red eyeshadow in the corners of his eyes danced like a flame. Asshole, what is Madarame Makaku? Madarame Makaku withdrew his knife, Reiatsu broke out, and slashed down with a heavy knife regardless. Under the intense emotion of Madarame Makaku, a faint but already rudimentary sword pressure appeared. Oh, watching this scene, Zaraki Kenpachi, who watched the whole show, raised his eyebrows with interest. Unexpectedly, he was bored for a while and didn't intervene, but instead gave Madarame Makaku the opportunity to break through. After a long absence, Kenpachi didn't obey Yachianu's idea, but prevented Yachianu from intervening in this conflict. On the field, watching Madarame Makaku's attack, Rukia gritted his teeth and was ready to go up. But the firm and powerful big hand pushed Rukia aside. Then, the one who had just pushed Rukia's hand away, met Madarame Makaku's knife just like that. Seeing this, Madarame Makaku was surprised and angry. Asshole, do you just look down on me like that? In a fit of rage, Madarame Makaku released the last 3-point force that had been put away. The rudimentary sword pressure is even more powerful. In the gymnasium, everyone watched this scene nervously. Even, many members of the 11th squad, who are naturally a bit bloodthirsty, have already become excited. How sharp is Madarame Makaku's blade, they know best. Now they seem to have seen this little boy named Shiraki, whose entire arm has been cut off. At that time, the girl Shinigami next to him must be crying. Thinking of this, grim smiles gradually appeared on the faces of the Shinigami of the 11th Division. However, next, a scene that shocked everyone happened. Ding! A metallic snap. Out! Madarame Makaku's blade stops. This, how is it possible? Looking at the situation in front of him, Ayasagawa Yumashika, Madarame Makaku's best friend, could no longer keep calm. As for the person involved, Madarame Makaku was so shocked that his lips trembled, but he couldn't say a word. Because on his blade, there are 2 fingers. With just 2 fingers, Shiraki took over Madarame Makaku's all-out, even sword-pressing prototype sword. Ah, oh my god. 3 seats for him. There was an uproar in the gymnasium. Everyone couldn't believe what they saw. Because of such things as blocking blades with flesh, they have only seen it on the body of their respected captain, Zaraki Kenpachi. Even, the wooden Kenpachi didn't use his fingers to catch the blade. Because for him, he enjoys the feeling of the blade even more. But these people do not know. Everyone in the 11th team was deeply shocked by Shiraki's strength. However, looking at the shocked eyes of everyone around, Shiraki himself curled his lips. He didn't understand. He just took Madarame Makaku's knife, so why is it so novel? After all, this is steel skin. An ability that can only be possessed by high-level Manos Grande. Also the only useful thing Shiraki has pulled out these days. Thinking of this, Shiraki was a little speechless. Isn't it because he has been soaking in the gentle village for the past few days, so the diary is a little watery? Is the diary so watery for him? Crow flying, 1,000 years of death, these are really skills that people can use. Thinking about it, Shiraki was a little distracted again. But this time, everyone no longer thinks that he is looking down on or despising anyone. Seeing Shiraki distracted, Madarame Makaku tried to draw the ghost lamp pill in his hand, but found that his sword blade remained motionless, as if caught by an industrial clamp. After experiencing Shiraki's strength again, the angry Madarame Makaku calmed down as if a basin of ice water had been poured on her face. However, Madarame Makaku's actions also brought Shiraki back to his senses. He loosened his fingers, and Madarame Makaku's blade was pulled out very smoothly. Because of too much force, Madarame Makaku staggered back a few steps before completely dissolving his own strength. Such a corner looks a little funny, like Shiraki is deliberately teasing him. But Madarame Makaku wasn't angry at all. Because the strong are those who can humiliate the weak, let alone the weak who are overconfident and shameless. Looking at Shiraki, and Rukia standing beside him, Madarame Makaku smiled wryly. Renji, you said you like Rukia, and you will confess when your identities match. 2.3 inches. But now it seems that your confession is still too late. Who is this second team vice captain Shiraki who suddenly appeared? Jinglingting, why did this person come out again? Madarame Makaku was very puzzled. After a small conflict, the noisy gymnasium fell into complete silence. Seeing this, Zaraki Kenpachi, who has been on the sidelines, knows it's time for him to play. Madarame Makaku is his subordinate. Even if it is unreasonable, how can his subordinates be bullied by outsiders? Kenpachi showed a sinister smile and stood up. Hey, boy from the second team, you are crazy. It's so tough, how about you come and fight with me? Kenpachi's tall body stood in front of Shiraki. Oh. Watching Kenpachi appear, the 11th team members in the gym were excited again. Everyone thought that a shocking battle would be staged next. Don't say anything about Central 46's orders, let alone make sense or not. Except for the orders of Captain Yamamoto and, of course, the orders of Captain Unohana Retsu, the 11th Division will not listen to any other orders. Watching Shiraki, Kenpachi, who managed to find a fight, was so excited. But at this moment, Kenpachi clearly overlooked one person, a very important person. Idiot Shaojian, is it time for you to fight? Yakiryu jumped onto Zaraki Kenpachi's broad shoulders, and the little feet in straw sandals kept stepping on his head. The problem now is that Xiao Zhanai has committed a serious crime. Bachenliu's words awakened the dreamer. With the efforts of Yachenliu, the 11th team entered a normal communication state. However, at the same time, second team, in the waiting room, Unohana Retsu took Yang Yin and sipped tea quietly. And in front of her, Sui Feng and Yoruichi stood, swords drawn. Looking at the two juniors in front of her, Sister Hua smiled faintly. I need an explanation. Explanation? What explanation? Hearing Unohana Retsu's words, Sui Feng immediately turned back. We made an agreement at the beginning, and we agreed on the time allocation. But at the same time we agreed that even if the time was wrong. But Shiraki still can go wherever he wants, we cannot restrict him, and we will consider ourselves unlucky when we meet. Shiraki wants to be with us these days, is this also a restriction? Sui Feng asked back, and then she looked at Unohana Retsu provocatively. Captain Unohana Retsu can also make Shiraki want to go to your place, playing for a week or two is fine. After all, we won't be impatient for a few days like some people. After finishing speaking, Sui Feng glanced at Unohana Retsu. The certain people in his mouth were self-evident, and the aggression was directly full. With this series of words, even Yoruichi looked at Sui Feng with some trepidation. It's just that, as the person whose face was directly jumped, Unohana Retsu's energy-raising skills are full. Facing Sui Feng's jumping face, even Yang Yin couldn't hold back. The gentle smile on Unohana Retsu's face remains unchanged, and the way she looks at Sui Feng is more like looking at a child. After taking a sip of tea unhurriedly, Unohana Retsu said lightly, but Captain Sui Feng, although he didn't say anything, we should have a tacit understanding, right? Men always don't cherish things that are easily obtained. In order to avoid vicious competition causing sisters to become cheap. Before the situation really unfolds, some things cannot be given. Now is the time when the situation is not unfolding. Captain Sui Feng, do you know that your actions will also affect other people? Sui Feng was stopped by Unohana Retsu's logical and clear words. She knew what Unohana Retsu said could not be given. In this competition for Shiraki, the only way to win is to reduce the intensity of competition. Otherwise, in order to snatch Shiraki today, give herself to him directly, and tomorrow she will give herself to him again in order to grab Shiraki. It didn't take long for everyone to become cheap goods and lose the most precious thing. This is vicious competition. It's just that Sui Feng is still a little unconvinced. That was an agreement between me and Shiraki before that day. He fulfilled the requirement, so we gave it. What's the problem? And this matter was initiated by Shiraki at 19, didn't we agree that he is free? Unohana Retsu narrowed his eyes. Shiraki is indeed free, if it's a previous agreement as you said, it's not a big problem. The question is Captain Sui Feng, is Shiraki free on the first day, free on the second day, third day, fourth day, or free? As he said that, Unohana Retsu's tone turned cold. Captain Sui Feng, are you sure you don't have any selfish motives? Listening to Unohana Retsu's words, this time, Sui Feng is silent. Because she did have selfish motives, greedy for Shiraki and the others, let Shiraki stay for a few days longer, encroaching on her reservation time. However, this is indeed Shiraki's own taste. For those who stayed, they could only be regarded as a temptation, and they did not force it. In Sui Feng's view, this is dancing under the rules, not malicious. If other people encounter such a situation, then she will also admit it, because it is obtained by personal charm. And looking at Sui Feng's indifferent expression, Unohana Retsu finally understood what she was thinking. Hee. Unohana Retsu suddenly laughed. That's how it is. Although everyone agreed to form an alliance, the set of competition in your hearts is still not put away. It's my fault, I didn't agree with you on some things. Saying that, Unohana Retsu's handsome face suddenly turned cold. The terrifying Reiatsu came out of his body, but was confined in this small room by the exquisite control of Unohana Retsu. Feeling the immediate Reiatsu and the pressure from the depths of his heart, Sui Feng's face changed, and he said in horror. Why is the pressure still so great? I drew a lottery again in the past few days, and got a lot of points to strengthen it. Why? How do you face me, still the same as before? Unohana Retsu added the words in Sui Feng's heart. Sui Feng's face changed again. She looked at Unohana Retsu in shock. Mind reading? No, it's not mind reading. Unohana Retsu smiled slightly. It's just that Captain Sui Feng's strength has improved too fast these days. At the same time, you are still slackening in the gentleness, feel your Reiatsu for yourself. Quote. Your emotions are overflowing, Captain Sui Feng. Yunohana Retsu's words were like Hong Zhang Dalu. Shocked, Sui Feng quickly restrained himself Reiatsu to prevent Yunohana Retsu from spying on her. Seeing Sui Feng quiet down, Yunohana Retsu nodded in satisfaction. Continue with the topic just now. Yunohana Retsu looked at Yi, who had been silent all this time. In your thinking, you may think that this alliance is for mutual benefit and to reduce the intensity of competition, a relatively loose alliance. And my duty as the speaker is just to regulate. In your opinion, reducing the intensity of competition does not mean no competition, but fighting without breaking. But, Captain Sui Feng, Captain Yoruichi, do you know? Ji Huoli's smile became a little scary. In my opinion, this is me giving you my things and sharing them with you. Yunohana Retsu raised her chin slightly, and said proudly, some things, what I give you, are yours. If you don't give it, you can't take it. Thick murderous intent reverberated in the waiting room of the second division. In an instant, Yoruichi and Sui Feng felt as if they had come to a sea of corpses and blood in sheer hell. Under Yunohana Retsu's words, Sui Feng and Yishi finally understood Yunohana Retsu's attitude. That is, beauties are only for the strong. Yunohana Retsu, Jinglingting has been established for more than 1,000 years. Times have changed a long time ago, haven't you come out 1,000 years ago? Sui Feng was shocked and angry. He. Listening to Sui Feng's words, Yunohana Retsu's mouth curved into a mocking arc. Times have changed, but I haven't. Only the weak will follow the changes of the times, the strong will create the times. Yunohana Retsu Haki's words echoed in the small room. The might of the first generation Kenpachi is revealed at this moment. And hearing Haki's words, Sui Feng was also stunned. Although I really don't want to admit it, but a strong woman like Sister Hua. It was her dream. Sui Feng didn't know what to say for a while. Seeing this, Yoruichi sighed, and could no longer hide behind Sui Feng to watch the show. Yoruichi stood up, with sharp eyes, and a trace of purple lightning flashed in the golden eyes. Captain Yunohana Retsu, the question is, are you strong? Oh, hearing Yoruichi's words, Yunohana Retsu gave her a surprised look, but she didn't rush to answer, but instead asked. The lightning in your eyes, this doesn't seem to be Kido. Interesting, is this the ability you got from Shiraki by lottery? Yes. Speaking of this, Yoruichi was a little proud. LV3 defect power, although the effect of actual combat is not strong. But for me, its self-improvement is irreplaceable. Yoruichi's original instant coaxing is the lightning type. Now that she has the superpower from Academy City, she can simulate the superimposed effect of instant coax in a normal state, and she can use her own ability to control electricity to better control the instant coax. If we talk about the original Black Cat Warrior form, all of Yoruichi's calculation power has to be controlled by the violent thunder and lightning integrated into his body, so he can only act on instinct. So now, with the help of defective power, she can better control the instant coax, and she won't lose her mind completely. Ah, seeing Yoruichi's pride clearly, Yunohana Retsu laughed again. But this time, the gentle and bright smile, smiling and smiling, turned into a gloomy and terrifying one. Yunohana Retsu expressionless. Hey, you know, if this question was asked 1,000 years ago, you would be dead, and Shihuan would not be able to keep you for 1,000 days, Exclamation mark quote. Even more terrifying pressure is on Sui Feng and Yoruichi. For a moment, Sui Feng, who was slightly weaker, had difficulty breathing. But Sui Feng still insisted on gritting his teeth and took a step forward, insisting, who wouldn't say something harsh. Looking at Sui Feng, Yunohana Retsu raised her eyebrows in surprise. Then, she suddenly laughed. The laughter was clear and soft. The pressure hanging over Sui Feng and Yoruichi disappeared instantly. The sudden disappearance of pressure, as if the atmospheric pressure had changed suddenly, made Sui Feng feel a little uncomfortable and began to pant for a while. And just when Sui Feng looked at Yunohana Retsu suspiciously, wondering why she lost her momentum, Yoruichi suddenly took a step forward and stood in front of her. Because at this time, facing Sui Feng and Yoruichi, Yunohana Retsu drew his sword. With a long sword in her hand, her eyes were indifferent, and she looked at the two with an expressionless face. Yunohana Retsu didn't say anything more, but her attitude was already very clear. At the same time, Sui Feng was also surprised to find that she couldn't feel the reiatsu of the person in front of her eyes. Although Unohana Retsu is standing in front of her, she can't feel it. In this case, either reiatsu of Unohana Retsu surpassed Sui Feng by a large margin. Either the opponent's reiatsu control has reached the apex, able to completely converge his own reiatsu fluctuations. In Sui Feng's opinion, Unohana Retsu should be a bit of both. Is the enhancement she got in the points mall so big? Sui Feng asked in shock. It's not about Captain Unohana Retsu getting stronger, but because her own strength is unfathomable. Yoruichi replied. Sui Feng, when Shinigami's strength reaches a higher level, the strength is one line higher, that's the time. As for Captain Unohana Retsu, she has undergone at least 2 rounds of strengthening, and she is already 2 layers stronger than the original her. Although I hate to admit it, Captain Unohana Retsu, the 2 layers of Captain Millennium, may be an insurmountable gap for us. Yoruichi's words were solemn. Sui Feng, we have to fight together. Yeah, Sui Feng nodded. 2 Unohana Retsu looking forward together. Seeing this, Yun behind Unohana Retsu silently walked towards the door to the side. And the moment Yongyun walked out of the room, the figures of Yoruichi and Sui Feng disappeared, and then Unohana Retsu appeared one after the other at the same time. The 2 short blades stabbed at her front and back at the same speed. This is an absolute dilemma, a real synergy. As the 2 captains of the second team, one in front and one in the back, they are still assassins. It is no exaggeration to say that no one in this world can escape the cooperation of the 2 of them. However, Unohana Retsu is not on this list. Facing the delicate pincer between the 2, Unohana Retsu just took a slight step back. Afterwards, Sui Feng felt his wrist. People catch. Then her eyes blurred, and she crashed into a soft and familiar embrace. Catching Sui Feng's Yoruichi, his feet keep gliding on the ground. She looked at Unohana Retsu in horror. What a speed. Yoruichi never expected. Unohana Retsu, who is always gentle and calm, can move between her and Sui Feng. Yoruichi didn't have much time to be shocked, though. Because after throwing Sui Feng into Yoruichi's arms, Unohana Retsu's blade was chasing directly at Sui Feng's back. Seeing this, Yoruichi gritted his teeth, hugged Sui Feng with one hand, and with the other hand took out a series of ninja tools from the ninja tool bag located somewhere. Although it is only one-handed, Yoruichi's ninja throwing is still powerful, and the day school shuriken kunai is like a heavy artillery. As the captain of the second team and the embodiment of the quality of the ninja leader, the ninja tools thrown by Yoruichi instantly formed a fine net, covering Unohana Retsu. However, facing the impenetrable network of ninja tools, Unohana Retsu just shook his head, and said the first sentence after the war, "It's too bad, compared with your ancestors." Wielding the long sword, Unohana Retsu just tapped one of the nodes of the ninja net. Ding 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 ding. The out-of-control ninja tools began to collide with each other, a series of metal collision sounds sounded, and a gap that could be walked by was revealed. Unohana Retsu leapt over the ninja net in one step, and the sharp point of the knife almost touched the 2060 characters on Sui Feng's leader Haori. But at this time, Yoruichi's right hand flashed, and a kunai that had undergone electromagnetic acceleration burst out. As the gaze locked by kunai, Unohana Retsu's brow felt a tingling pain. Well, this is interesting. Feeling the actual sense of threat, Unohana Retsu nodded slightly. However, there is only a little meaning, but not much. During the pursuit, Unohana Retsu tilted her head slightly. The kunai that burst out shot into the distance after cutting off a few strands of hair. General, Unohana Retsu held out the long sword forward. But at this time, from behind her, a series of metal magnet children sounded again. Then, a sense of threat from behind appeared. Feeling the threat from behind, Unohana Retsu was very surprised. She didn't understand the threat behind her, and her rationality made her want to ignore it, but the intuition that she had been training all year round still made Unohana Retsu stop and turn her head. Then, Unohana Retsu was shocked to find that the ninja net she just crossed flew towards her again at some point. And the leader of the continuous group of ninja tools is the electromagnetic kunai that she exploded just now. Is it the tinkling sound just now? Unohana Retsu realized that it was Yoruichi who pulled the ninja group back by some means. Such skill surprised Unohana Retsu a bit. It is commendable to successfully resolve the passiveness of being chased by using wonderful ninja skills. But Ninja Rain itself is still a trail to her. With a slight sideways movement, Unohana Retsu let the group of ninjas attack again, and let the group of ninjas go towards their masters. Then Unohana Retsu looked back at Yoruichi and wanted to say something. But at this time, Yoruichi, who just put down Sui Feng, shot out another kunai burst. Like a catfish, kunai broke into the group of ninjas with lightning, and then, with the sound of continuous collisions, the group of ninjas was really disturbed like a fish and became chaotic. However, Unohana Retsu's eyes widened suddenly as he watched the ninja group collide. This is not chaos, the kunai just now is not a catfish, but a shepherd dog. In a series of incomprehensible collisions, the group of ninjas who had just passed Unohana Retsu turned around again, blocked the front line again, and flew towards her. What an exquisite shuriken technique! After watching the transformation of Ninja Rain completely, Unohana Retsu couldn't help but praise. I change my words, Shihuen Chianichi's shuriken is not as good as yours. It's just that ninja tools still have their limitations. Unohana Retsu's blade is covered with reiatsu for the first time. She waved her sword lightly, and then a bloody sword swept all the space between the three of them. Boom! The terrifying sword pressure is fleeting. But the ninja group just now has been reduced to nothing, only a little bit of flying ash left. Seeing this, Yoruichi's pupils shrank. Shihuen is a godsend soldier, her ninja equipment is not ordinary. Unohana Retsu's strength at the tip of the iceberg was shown in front of the two of them. At this time, the entire narrow lounge was deadly quiet. Sui Feng and Sui Feng are only good at assassination techniques. If they want to face the former, Kenpachi, Unohana head-on, it may be difficult to achieve it without using the ultimate move. Can the relationship between the few people now really reach the point where life and death are needed? Several people still uphold the bottom line in their hearts, but when things get to this point, none of them are willing to take the initiative to take a step back. But when these three people were all confronting each other with black faces, suddenly, dang-a-dang-a-dang, the three of them only heard the sound of hurried and hasty footsteps coming from outside the door, accompanied by the door of the room being pushed open in a hurry. Just outside the door, Rukia, who was sweating profusely, even forgot to kneel down to meet the captain, just stared at her big eyes in a panic, and exclaimed loudly. Report to the captain, it's not good. Shiraki's vice-captain went to the 11th team to convey instructions, but he annoyed Zaraki's captain and Madara, and was severely injured. Now Captain Zaraki has detained Vice-Captain Shiraki, and said that Captain Sui Feng should go get him personally, and also said, The more Rukia spoke, the more anxious she became. But as she was talking, she suddenly noticed that besides her own Captain Sui Feng, there were Sir Yoruichi and Captain Unohana, and look at the atmosphere between them. Seems a bit weird. I was stunned, but before she could figure out what happened in this room just now, suddenly, in the entire room, three powerful reiatsu that far surpassed the common captain level burst out suddenly. These three strands of reiatsu entangled and swayed, and in an instant, they turned into a majestic force that was almost condensed into substance. The huge power actually forced Rukia's thin body to become unstable, her face turned pale, and she almost collapsed on the ground. But no one cared about her reaction at all. Looking at Sui Feng and Yoruichi at this time, their faces turned cold. Not far away, Captain Ujihua's eyes were even colder, but his oval face was covered with a chilling sneer. An extremely gentle, yet extremely piercing voice floated leisurely from her lips. He, what a little Zaraki, it's getting better and better with his subordinates to beat his own people. HMPH, that beast is also worthy of being the captain. Lawless, I have long suggested that he should be abolished. It seems that today is the day. Another cold voice also came from Sui Feng's mouth. The corner of Yoruichi's mouth twitched, but his eyes were filled with coldness. After the three of them looked at each other, they didn't say anything, and all of them disappeared into the room in an instant with a few, swish. And until then, plop, Rukia and Katetsu Azane, who were outside the door, collapsed to the ground like a ball that had been emptied of air. But only for a moment. Rukia's pretty face, which was already extremely pale, turned pale again. She hastily supported the wall, her trembling body stood up again, and ran out of the corridor staggeringly. While running, he muttered anxiously. It's broken, I said that the deputy captain's method can't work. This time it's a big fuss, this time it's really a big fuss. At the same time, the team building of the 11th team was already in a mess. When the three of Sui Feng arrived, they saw that the walls and corridors of the entire 11th team were in dilapidated condition. On the road, at a glance, there are all players lying horizontally and vertically, moaning constantly. Sui Feng was the most impatient, and he was about to grab a member of the 11th team and ask about Shiraki's whereabouts. But at this moment, Rukia, who was chasing desperately with Shunpo all the way, finally caught up. No matter how far away you are, hurry up and say hello. Captain Sui Feng, you guys, don't worry, I know where Captain Zaraki and the others are. While shouting, the little girl frantically appeared in front of the three of them with a few flashes again, and then hurriedly led the way in front of them with a changed face. The three people behind were obviously already a little enthusiastic, and they didn't doubt too much for a while, so they followed closely along the way in a hurry. Not long after, as the dilapidated corridors turned one after another, a room with a closed door and a quiet room with no one around appeared in front of the four of them. As soon as the door was opened, the three of Sui Feng couldn't help being startled. I saw that in this room, the imagined bloody picture did not appear. At this moment, Zaraki Kenpachi, who was sitting cross-legged like a ferocious beast, was looking impatiently waiting for something. While riding on his neck with his calves crossed, Yakiliu kept blowing on his face with his small mouth, as if to help him calm down. But there are no other people, except Madarame Makaku, who is bald, and a Yasugawa Yumashika, who is as gorgeous as a peacock. Unexpectedly, just sitting on the front seats of the few people, sitting firmly, there is a body of a healthy body that is completely intact, not even a trace of dust. Vice Captain of 2nd Division, Shiraki. Huh, you weren't. Sui Feng stared with almond eyes and was about to ask. But in just a split second, Yi Shi and Yuo Zihua next to him had faintly realized that the problem might be unusual. Yoruichi hastily and quietly poked Sui Feng's slender waist, preventing her from asking. Then the two of them glanced around vigilantly. After confirming that there was indeed no one else around, Chi-Chi stepped into the quiet room under the leadership of Rukia, and subconsciously closed the door tightly. There are a few powerful captains around, and everyone is not worried that someone will eavesdrop outside. Quote, seeing that there was Unohana among the people who followed, Zaraki, who was originally bored, let out a snort, but then subconsciously couldn't help it, and turned his eyes to the side. In his mouth, he still said in a cold voice impatiently. Okay, annoying boy, now that everyone is here, if you have anything to say, hurry up and say it. Okay, Shiraki agreed. Seeing the surprise and incomprehension in the eyes of Unoka and the others, Shiraki didn't hold back and motioned for the girls to sit down. Then he organized the language and said seriously. Captain Sui Feng, Ms. Yoruichi, and Captain Unohana is also here, just in time. The more strength we have, the more we can solve this matter. I'm sorry, what Rukia told you, I taught her to say. The reason why I used this method to deceive everyone is because the current jingling court is actually not safe. Oh, Shiraki's first sentence immediately aroused the curiosity of the girls. They are all outstanding people in jingling court, especially Sui Feng, who is also full-time in charge of the security and spy work of the entire jingling court. So after hearing this remark, the brow, snap, is a twitch. But Shiraki didn't care about these details, and just continued quickly. Just now, the 46th Central Committee asked me to give an order to the 11th team. It is said that Mr. Yijiao's sister, Madara Mushino, privately transmitted her power to a mortal during her mission in Karakura town in the present world, which violated the regulations of the jingling court. Let us join the 11th team to arrest her. Of course, that's why I had conflicts with Mr. Akaku and Captain Kuchiki when I first came here. Shiraki quickly narrated what happened just now, but Sui Feng, who was used to seeing the law as his life, suddenly darkened, and subconsciously glared at Zaraki Kenpachi, just about to reprimand him. But I saw Shiraki hurriedly waved his hand to stop her, then his face straightened, and he said to the girls seriously. Captain Sui Feng, don't worry. Actually, I have already communicated with Zaraki captains just now. This time I called you over, I must communicate with the captains. I'm afraid there are ghosts in this matter. Oh. What? When Shiraki said a word, the eyes of Suifeng and Yunohana suddenly flashed with surprise. But only to hear Shiraki continue. First of all, the 11th Squad is the main fighting force of Jinglingting. Everyone regards death as home, and that girl Ji now has a temperament that is thick on the outside and thin on the inside. I checked, and the mission this time is just to go to Karakura town in the real world to intercept and kill a common void. What accident happened that made Ji now, who has always been brave enough to die, choose to transfer his power to a mortal? And if Yi Jineo's strength can't even handle it, then what can be changed by transferring the power to a mortal? Shiraki said a word with a serious expression. Seeing that everyone was thinking for a while, Suifeng's expression gradually became serious, and then he continued. Secondly, even if we really encountered an accident that we can't imagine, with Jinai's mind, why did he choose to give his strength to a mortal? That's the weirdest bit. Everyone knows that the souls of common people are very fragile, and they simply cannot withstand the power of Shinigami. Even if you come to the Soul Society, if you want to become the most common Shinigami from a commoner, you need to go through systematic training and work hard for a long time. But why did Jinai just find someone casually, and give him his strength? Also, as the strongest combat team, the 11th Squad usually conducts large-scale battles on the border of the Soul Society. Why is it that they were sent to the present world to perform a clearing mission for the common? And something went wrong. Why do you want to appoint our second team and the 11th team who are in charge of special affairs to jointly pursue it? Don't you think these things are too coincidental? Having said that, Shiraki no longer hides it completely, and speaks slowly with a serious face, saying, the habit of our second team is to suspect all abnormal situations. How come it's such a coincidence that all the 13 divisions have missions, and a mere world needs to mobilize fighters from the 11th division? How come it's such a coincidence that Shu, who was supposed to be easy to grab, suddenly alienated into an existence that even Ji now couldn't handle? And how come it's such a coincidence that she couldn't handle it, so she met a mortal who couldn't pick 1 out of 10,000, who could withstand the power of her Shinigami? I can't tell what's weird behind this. But after staying in the second team for so long and handling so many cases, my intuition tells me that if one thing can gather so many elements of coincidence, then it is very likely that it is not just a simple coincidence. Quote, and if someone is really playing tricks behind the scenes, and can consider the problem in such a small way, then I guess this person must have thoroughly grasped all the situation in Jingling Court. And his purpose, I'm afraid it's not even our Jingling Court alone, it's as simple as that. Shiraki's voice finally came to an end slowly. The whole quiet room can hear the smell of a needle falling. Obviously, each of Shiraki's questions was like a heavy hammer, and they all smashed into the heads of the masters. In the heart, they are not stupid. Although the men in the 11th team didn't know why, they seemed to have faintly felt a pair of eyes, watching everything silently after they were killed. And the breathing of Suifeng and other women almost stopped. You know, they have all read Shiraki's diary. Still, everyone knows about Aizen's big conspiracy in the future. Although Qian Zhao is not sure whether this matter has anything to do with Aizen. It can be used as the deacon of the covert operation team, and the previous generation Kenpachi who has killed countless enemies in his hands. All three women instinctively felt that Shiraki's guess was definitely not groundless. But at the same time, the order from Central 46 has been issued again. No matter what conspiracy is behind this, the second team and the 11th team will never go against it after receiving the order. Could it be that, even though he knew that there was a trick ahead, he still had to continue walking along the path drawn by his opponent? Could it be that, even though he already knew the extremely tragic ending, he still had no choice but to continue to drill into the trap made by the enemy? For a moment, the faces of everyone in the room became extremely ugly. A pair of questioning, or blank eyes, all subconsciously couldn't help it, and projected towards Shiraki in the middle. P.S. Update notice, in view of everyone's various suggestions for the previous article, Xiaoming decided to play it safe. The previous article was in order to catch up with the rhythm. There was indeed a problem, so I discussed with the editor. After discussing it for a while, I decided to revise the previous article, advancing this part in the plot line and the unfinished part of the heroine line. So I decided to overhaul the previous article. Of course it will be updated, but it will not be updated. The suggestions mentioned by everyone are very pertinent. Thank you for your encouragement and support. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you all. Friends who have time can also look back at the previous article, which chapters have been revised, and leave a message for you. The plot line of the interaction with the heroine and the Sui Feng or Ruji that you mentioned. Hua et al.'s character changes will be adjusted. Strive to make old fans happy and new fans comfortable. Here Xiaoming bows again to thank everyone. Try to adjust the state. Give everyone a different Shinigami, a different diary. Thank you for your supervision. Chapter 71. With a slight groan, Shiraki's expression became unusually serious. Hey, family members, who knows? I originally just wanted to mix up the rewards and open the harem. What Aizen, Yuhabak? The Soul Society has gone through so many catastrophes, there will always be a taller one, isn't it? It stands to reason that I only need to maintain enough self-protection and protect my group of wives, big and small, isn't it enough? But now, the order from above has actually been sent to the second team. Does this mean that I have been targeted by Nabi Aizen? Quietly writing this, Shiraki's entire facial features couldn't help but tangle up. It stands to reason that if possible, he really didn't want to be exposed to the public so early, especially in front of Aizen. But obviously, maybe the inauguration ceremony a while ago was too noisy, maybe it was too fast for me to be promoted from unknown to vice captain. Anyway, the reality now is that Aizen has indeed noticed himself. Although judging by the degree of this kind of probing, I am afraid that the other party is very likely to just do it casually, wanting to test his quality at will. But he knows Aizen's character. Now that I have stepped into the other party's field of vision, then the other party will definitely start a series of investigations and trials on their own initiative. In this situation, if I continue to defend passively, I am afraid that one day, I will really become a fertilizer in someone else's experimental field. When thinking about this in his heart, Shiraki, who was already immersed in his diary, didn't pay attention to the increasingly weird expressions of Sui Feng and his daughter's opposite. Then he gritted his teeth and continued to write. Go, it's because I don't want to trouble myself too much. But if you don't even react when someone hits you on the nose, then it's not a dog, but a wimp. According to the original plot, Aizen, you are so anxious to catch Shino back, maybe you have already noticed the hidden Hogyoku in her body, right? In that case, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut your shit first. After all, in addition to being able to get Hogyoku, there are also a few girls in this world who are waiting to be blessed by me. Ha ha ha. After a quick stroke of the pen, Shiraki couldn't help but outline Inoue Orihime's cruel capital that was not inferior to Rengoku in his mind Chunin, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Then suddenly he opened his mouth and said, in any case, the order of Central 46 cannot be violated. Brother Madara, and Captain Zaraki, if you don't worry about this matter, leave it to me. Since we already know that 687 has hidden secrets behind this, we will definitely not just arrest Jinai and wait for punishment. Well, I'm going to Karakura town now to find out the truth of all this. I believe that as long as I investigate carefully, the guy behind the scenes will definitely show his feet, and then we can, Suddenly, Baikun's voice stopped abruptly. For some reason, he felt a cool breeze on the back of his neck, as if he was being stared at by some ferocious beast. Before he could understand what had happened. But he only heard Sui Feng's voice on the other side, so cold that it could almost freeze the air, but it had already leisurely passed into Shiraki's ears, saying, Hee, I think. You, the vice captain, don't need to go over this kind of thing in person, right? Hee, yes, Shiraki's vice captain, the second team is responsible for the secret maneuvers of the entire Soul Society. I'm afraid the daily teamwork is already very heavy. It's really necessary for you to go out for a mere investigation. In this world. Before Sui Feng's voice fell, the warm voice of Captain Ujiwa also slowly floated out. For a moment, Shiraki couldn't help but feel the hairs all over his body stand on end. Subconsciously turned around hastily. Just in front of him, Captain Unohana was looking at him with a warm smile on his face. But in those eyes that have been narrowed into crescent moons, there are traces of cold brilliance like Fang Buddha's sharp sword clearly shining. Hey, this. Shiraki shrank his neck in fright. He really didn't understand that he just wanted to go to the real world for a while, why did he offend these two captains for no reason? But at this moment, seeing the plots on both sides suddenly gradually began to develop in a magical direction. Yoruichi, who had been sitting next to him without saying a word, had a bright light in his eyes, as if he had realized something. After pondering for a while, he suddenly opened his mouth slowly, interrupting the three people's cockfight, and said slowly, "Vice Captain Shiraki, maybe he's already noticed something. Indeed, if it's as complicated as what you just said, I'm afraid it may not be possible for ordinary soldiers to go." "What, miss, you?" After Yoruichi said this, the expressions of Suifeng and Unohana next to him changed. But before they could speak, Yoruichi hurriedly made a gesture of calmness, and then he couldn't say clearly, so he could only pick and choose words to explain. The so many doubts that Deputy Captain Shiraki said just now are enough to show how terrifying the manipulator behind this incident is. Some things we can't escape if we want to escape. Rather than that, it's better to choose to take the initiative to attack and find out what's going on. However, but at this point, Yoruichi's words suddenly stopped. Immediately afterwards, the whole person really did not change, his face and his heart beat, and said seriously with a righteous look, "For things like this, I'm afraid it's really inappropriate for Vice Captain Shiraki to go there alone. But you captains have so many official duties to attend to, it is impossible to leave the station and go to the present world because of this kind of speculation. So, let me personally accompany Captain Shiraki to the present world. Don't worry, with me here, Captain Shiraki will never encounter any threats from anyone." Ha ha ha. After saying this, Yoruichi couldn't help but let out a burst of smug laughter. But looking at Suifeng and Unoka on the opposite side, including Rukia who can only listen in the corner not far away, the three pretty faces are all stretched out. "Miss is really used to being shameless," Suifeng said with endless resentment in his heart. "Cut, the cunning thief cat, she caught such a loophole." Unojawa smiled all over her face, but she couldn't help jumping out of the corner of her eyes. Rukia's mouth twitched slightly, but after a while, he suddenly seemed to muster up his courage. Subconsciously, he couldn't help but raise his hand. With his big watery eyes, he no longer dared to look at anyone in the room. Muttered in a low voice, "The team and the captains are inseparable from their official duties, but I should actually be able to help Captain Shiraki, right? After all, my identity. But I was originally a team member, hee ha 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 ha. Swish, yip yip yip." Rukia Kuchiki said this word out. The originally tense atmosphere in the room suddenly stagnated. For a moment, several eyes were either surprised or strange, but they couldn't help it, and shot at her thin body. And at the same time, in the various team buildings of Jinglingting. "What, in this world, there is actually a girl who can be compared to me by Upai. This can't work. Once a man has a woman who can replace you in his heart, the result waiting for you will definitely not be too good." In the 10th Squad's office, Matsumoto Rengaku, who was already full of anxiety, was almost scratching his head while thinking, while rushing to the office of Captain Toshiro, surrounded Xiaobai and began to moan. "Captain, my most wise and mighty captain, I suddenly thought of something and wanted to ask for leave to go to the present world, please approve it, sir, okay." "Get out." Toshiro spat out a word in a cold and unceremonious manner. "Oh, Captain." Rengaku still wanted to play tricks. But Toshiro didn't even raise his head, just continued to review the documents quickly, and calmly said, "You have been deducted more than half of your salary this month because of absenteeism. If you go out casually, you may start to deduct next month's salary." "Hey Captain, Rengaku's voice stopped abruptly. Wow, in the whole room, suddenly there was a BJAH, as if something was smashed to the ground. Similarly, similar plots are also being staged in the other team buildings. "Master Chunshui, I want to go." "No." Before Aiz Naneo could express her appeal, Jingle Chunshui, who was always lying under the sun and taking a lazily nap, shook her head and interrupted her, and said vaguely, "Where do you want to go? I have no food to eat wherever you go." But my lord." Aiz Naneo was about to cry, but she still had to try her best to maintain the calm on the surface, so as not to let the other party see the clue. She was anxious, because of her personality. She was originally a slow-heating type, and her figure and appearance were by no means superior among all the women. If at this time Shiraki introduces a lot of competitors who are stronger than himself in all aspects from the present world, will his points be able to rise further? But before she can continue talking, but Jingle Chunshui's huge bamboo hat was covering his face, and there were already bursts of sound coming from underneath. Team, Captain. In the original place, only Eyes Naneo was left, her pretty face was completely covered with frost. I call you sleep. Boom. Ouch. A scream suddenly echoed over the entire 8th Division. Master Kuritsuchi Mayuri, Ni Yinmeng said softly. Kuritsuchi Mayuri was engrossed. His hands were always like butterflies wearing flowers, he kept shuttling back and forth among a bunch of flasks, and only replied casually. It is said that the Shinigami sent out last time, Madara Meshino, transferred his power to a common in this world. Do you think we should follow up? Ni Yinmeng thought about the words for a while, and then asked tentatively. Never mind, I am no longer familiar with the structure of Shinigami, and it has no reference value. It's just that Kuritsuchi Mayuri was not interested at all, and he didn't even move his eyes. Okay, Master Kuritsuchi Mayuri. Hearing these words, Ni Yinmeng subconsciously opened her mouth, but she didn't say anything until the end. It's just that his eyes were complicated, and he quietly paid attention to the words that kept appearing in the diary again. In the various teams of Jingling Court, similar dramas are still being staged. However, in a certain vacant warehouse in this world, Aizen, Hogyoku, one with eyes, wearing a school uniform, the girl with a temperament somewhat similar to Naneo Aiza's mouth twitched slightly. But in those eyes that were as dead as a mysterious pool, there was already a hint of cold murderous intent flickering, secretly said. After waiting for so many years, that guy finally appeared again. It's just that he said, where is the soul that can hide Hogyoku? Yamaru Lisa's expression was cold, without any change. But the H-book in her hand, which she regards as a treasure on weekdays, has been completely crushed into a roll at this moment, can no longer distinguish the waste paper from the bag. It seems, I also want to take the initiative to start paying attention to the guy from Soul Society recently. Karakura Town is a small town next to Tokyo with a population of 100,000. The afternoon sun is getting stronger. In the sky where no one can see. Accompanied by a door emerged out of thin air. 2 people, 1 cat, and 3 figures stepped out of the door. Yes, Rukia Kuchiki and Yoruichi followed Shiraki and came to this world. No way. Although Sui Feng was extremely reluctant to let Shiraki come to the world in person. But they all knew in their hearts that when it comes to Hogyoku, except for Shiraki who has the identity of a time traveler, the rest are of no help at all. And Yoruichi has been hiding in Karakura Town these years, and there is a strong foreign aid like Urahara Kazuki as the backing. She came to the world to help Shiraki, which is definitely a multiplier for fighting Aizen. As for Rukia, anyway, Sui Feng and Anakana can't just see Shiraki and Yoruichi come to this world, can't they? With so many women watching, these 2 people have made it like this. If this really gets out and the 2 of them are left alone, God knows, will they have to bring back a litter of little black cats when they come back? It's time to go to school. According to the original plot, the current Kurosaki Ichigo and Shino should both be in school, right? Actually, Aizen and Urahara Kazuki have been studying Hogyoku at the same time, but their Hogyoku is not perfect. Aizen wants to obtain the perfect Hogyoku, but sacrificed Shinigami and Shu are not enough, so he can only choose to absorb Urahara Kazuki's Hogyoku if he doesn't want to cause big trouble. And Urahara Kazuki wants to hide Hogyoku, and now he should have used his own skeleton technology to hide Hogyoku in Madara Meshino's body. So I just need to find Madara Meshino and take her Hogyoku, so that Aizen's plan will not succeed. Then I can go back to my little days of fishing and wives every day. Well, in order to carry out my fishing career to the end, I will immediately go to school to get Hogyoku and then go home and continue fishing. After some hydrology, Shiraki raised his mouth immediately, and then Shunpo stepped on his feet, making a swish. The next moment, it has completely disappeared in the sky above Karakura Town. At this moment, in the classroom of Class 3, Grade 1, Karakura No. 1 Advanced Middle School. The teacher on the podium is constantly chanting some knowledge that is even more troublesome than Kido singing. But just below the podium, Inoue Orihime, who has excellent grades on weekdays, is rarely absent-minded at this time. A pair of big eyes that were so innocent at this time that they did not contain the slightest impurity were staring at the empty corner of the desk in a daze. Yes, the corner where no one else can see anything is holding a copy of Bashu Diary, exclusive to Inoue Orihime. In fact, just like the girls of the Soul Society, Inoue also had an extra copy of the diary long before. When I first saw the content recorded in it, little Inoue was really shocked. What? People go to another world after death? It turns out that that world also has a society similar to the ancient system, and is about to encounter disaster. But even though she knew this, she, who was born with a big nerve, didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, she didn't know any of the people recorded here, and what was said had nothing to do with her as a little high school student. But all this changed completely a few days ago. My classmate, the yellow-haired, bad boy, Kurosaki Ichigo, disappeared. Actually speaking, the current Inoue Orihime is not familiar with Kurosaki Ichigo. She lived with her big brother since she was a child, and she has always been the target of school bullying by the children in her class at 4 o'clock. So in her impression, a guy like Kurosaki Ichigo who is not afraid of anything, and who can often beat bad boys outside of school to scream, she should stay away from him no matter what. But between her and Kurosaki Ichigo, there is a friend who is both the most cherished at the same time, Arasawa Tatsuki. Unlike Inoue Orihime, who is weak by nature, Arasawa Tatsuki has a bold personality and is a master of karate. So on the side of Kurosaki Ichigo, she is a friend who can be trusted. On Inoue Orihime's side, she is a reliable partner. Just when he got this diary, Inoue Orihime talked to Long Wei. Obviously, Long Wei also has a copy dedicated to her. At that time, the two did a lot of experiments. For example, this diary seems to be seen only by two people who have added friends. For example, they can't tell outsiders about the diary. Whenever they want to talk, they will be distorted by a mysterious force, and what they say will have nothing to do with the diary, etc. But at the same time, Long Wei also discovered that the content of the diary seemed to be something from another world. And it doesn't matter whether the comic world I live in is actually a comic world, or it doesn't matter how difficult it may be that horrors may appear in the future. In both of them's eyes, it's not something their two ordinary high school students can worry about. So after going back and forth, the two of them temporarily lost interest in this sudden copy of the diary. This diary actually mentions their childhood friend, Kurosaki Ichigo. Not a common human, but someone with supernatural power. What is Hogyoku? Is it possible for Kurosaki Ichigo to become the protagonist of this world? A series of shocking content. After the sudden disappearance of Kurosaki Ichigo a few days ago, I immediately cherished it. Inoue doesn't care, but Longwei cares. Seeing the crying little boy whom he had been protecting since he was a child, suddenly being sucked into such a terrifying vortex. How could Arasawa Tatsuki, who already cared so much about his friends, not be worried? From that day on, Arasawa Tatsuki took Inoue Orihime and kept flipping through the existing diary over and over again, just to find out where the current Kurosaki Ichigo might be, and whether he, as a friend, could do something. But it seems that even the protagonist Shiraki, who is the time traveler, doesn't know where Kurosaki Ichigo is now, and what he has experienced. It seems that this Shiraki is very likely to come to this world recently, or even come to his own school to investigate. Hey, if that Shiraki-kun really came to our class, how should I treat him? After all, looking at the contents of her diary, maybe he still knows me. Then does he know my future? Suddenly, Inoue Orihime, whose thoughts were spreading uncontrollably, couldn't help but startled. That's right, Shiraki-kun, as a time traveler, since he knows the plot of the entire manga, it stands to reason that he should also know the future of me and Longwei, right? Then, should I find a way to get in touch with him and ask about our future and destiny? After all, people also want to know what kind of life I will live in the future, whether I will become a painter or a singer, and what kind of husband I will marry. The more I think about it, the more shy I feel. The teacher's lecture is still going on, but the little face of Inoue Orihime below has gradually turned red, until finally, it seems that it has started to smoke continuously. But at this moment, suddenly, she froze. Because on her diary that was blank just now, a new line of words is emerging at a fast speed. That kid Kurosaki Ichigo is not at school. Could it be that he got some news in advance and took Madara Zishino to hide somewhere? Fortunately, we split up to start the operation at the very beginning. Rukia went to clinics one by one, and Miss Black Cat went to Urahara Kazuki. I hope they can bring some good news. Since you are here, should I drop by? Measure the size of Inoue's wife, is it as exaggerated as in the book? Wretched face. Crack, accompanied by the words on the diary, it came to an abrupt end. In the next moment, a photo of Inoue's frontal face appeared on everyone's copy of the diary. Looking at this photo again, behind a desk in the classroom, a goose egg face that is almost soft enough to drip water is full of bewilderment. With a pair of big, bewildered eyes and long, bow-colored hair, no matter how you look at it, you have a sense of innocence like a natural neighbor. What attracts the most attention is that right in front of this pure and confused beautiful girl, two ferocious polar bears proudly raised their unruly heads. A wave of hockey that can't be hidden even if you want to hide it, almost tore apart the buttons and clothes that bound them. This kind of majestic demeanor, I am afraid that anyone who sees it will feel admiration, and the whole body is suddenly surging with water, and it is out of control. But I saw that the words on the diary had quickly surfaced again. Wow, Mrs. Inoue really has a broad mind, she is open to all kinds of rivers, and it is very easy to grasp. However, at this stage, she should not be able to see me as a spirit body at all, right? Then should I take this opportunity? Really come to experience the drama of Transparent Man. Ah, boom, an exclamation suddenly echoed in the classroom. Inoue, who was still thinking wildly, jumped up from the seat almost instinctively, and even knocked over the stool. This, surprise, came too suddenly. I was still thinking about how to get close to Shiraki just now. But in the end, people actually appeared like this. And looking at the location of the photo, it was actually right in front of him. What does he call himself in the diary? Well, Inoue wife. Could it be Shiraki-kun who is a time traveler? Actually like yourself. The whole face of this naturally dull little girl burned like a boiled crab in an instant. In her impression, although this Shiraki-kun is a bit lecherous, all he can admire are those big names in the Shinigami world. What kind of captain, what kind of eldest lady? How could even a common girl like myself have the right to be in his sight? At this moment, Inoue's whole mind was completely boiling. For a moment, she even ignored Shiraki's intention in the diary to play Transparent Man, and fight her polar bear, with his own hands. Only, the dazed Inoue ignored it, but it doesn't mean that some other people also ignored it. Right in Jingling Court, in the office of the vice captain of the 10th Division. Matsumoto Rangaku, who was staring at the copy of the diary, was desperately biting a large stack of documents that needed to be processed. That row of white and lovely teeth has been deeply embedded in the paper. Woohoo, sure enough. Shiraki-kun really has a goal in this world. Look at this OP, is this what a freshman in high school should have? Why is my salary almost deducted? I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have asked for leave to go shopping a few days ago. Oh no, I still need to go shopping, that's that time, I shouldn't have asked for leave to perm my hair, and it's not. Oops, anyway, Shiraki-kun now has a perfect replacement for me. She is younger than me, and looks more innocent than me. What if she grows up a few more years? I hate it. Why do I have no salary to deduct? Boom, boom, boom. Matsumoto Rangaku was in front of his desk, constantly attacking the table with his iron head. It's not just her, the second team, the fourth team. The foreheads of all the girls have faint veins popping up. Shiraki-kun, as expected, I still like younger ones. In the team quarters of the 4th Division, Captain Unohana muttered with a smile on his face, but the cold and biting killing intent no matter how far you are, you can't breathe. This big bear girl should be wasted. In the 2nd Division team building, Sui Feng's face was expressionless, but the Suzumaki in his hand had been ground to pieces. However, the girls of the Soul Society gritted their teeth. Here in this world, it is already a completely different scene. In a remote and narrow alley, a flexible figure suddenly fell from the sky of the peninsula. Look at her school uniform and a shiny black braid. But in those indifferent eyes hidden behind the eyes, at this moment, two flashes flashed like wild wolf-like eyes, tremblingly said. Okay, it's so big. In this world, there are still such slippery fish that I haven't discovered. Quick, hurry up and continue. You Shiraki, can you continue? No, I should witness such an important moment with my own eyes. But I don't have the energy to go any further. Look at Yamaru Lisa's whole delicate body. Leaning against the corner of the wall, her pretty face was blushing and her body was shaking, her two shiny long legs were twisted tightly together, and she had already begun to uncontrollably bring the rhythm. And she is not the only one who has the same situation. Seeing such an explosive, transparent book that is about to make a sound, in the corner of the classroom, there is Chizuru, the craftsman who wears glasses and usually likes to fight Inoe's polar bear the most. The whole body is also tightly curled up on the seat. All kinds of liquid vapors coming out of nowhere from all over her body have soaked through her whole clothes. Hurry up, my dear little Inoue is about to be invaded. Oh, it's such a scary thing, why am I so excited? Will she suddenly buckle the bullet in front of the whole class? Or in front of the whole class? No, how could I be so unscrupulous? But, it's really exciting. The women reacted differently. But no matter what, the one thing is that at this moment, everyone's eyes were all focused on the diary in front of them. Almost everyone breathed heavily and began to look forward to what more exciting content would appear in this book next. Of course not. Shiraki's words immediately seemed like a basin of cold water, extinguishing the souls of 8 trigrams of all women. Are you kidding me? Do you really want my Inoue wife to act in public for others to see? And it's a man's normal nature to flirt now, but if he really does it, it's a human nature problem. Yudao is a gentleman who is lustful, and you can get it. My Inoue wife's life experience is already pitiful enough, and she is a natural fool. It's too late to hug her and hold her high. How could she hurt her? Especially, crack. As soon as the shutter sounded, the girls saw another neat and sassy girl with half-length combed hair appearing in the diary. She seemed to be looking at the blackboard and listening carefully. Long Gui's wife is still pretending to be quite calm. I'm already like this, and I don't move much. But you can see ghosts, are you still pretending to be ignorant like me? Cough, 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 cough. As soon as this sentence came out, Long Zi, who had been tensing his whole body muscles since just now, and was ready to rush out to rescue Inoue at any time, almost choked himself with a mouthful of saliva. Due to the influence of Kurosaki Ichigo's Reiatsu, Ryu Asagi was able to see ghosts from a young age. She had spotted Shiraki the moment he showed up. But now that she knows Shiraki's identity, she also knows that this guy's strength is simply a god for ordinary people nowadays. Under such circumstances, apart from pretending to be insensitive to the opponent first, and then launching a sudden attack, she never thought that the second type would be able to save him from this sex monster. Inoue Orihime's way. But after seeing what Shiraki wrote in the diary later, I have to say that Long Chuan, who has always regarded the opponent as an enemy, can't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Keeping an eye on the diary, she knows that this man is indeed lustful, but his behavior style is not really lawless. He has a bottom line that a kind person should have. To Arasawa Tatsuki, this man is not a vicious person. After all, if you want to talk about lust, which man in this world is not lustful? The tense nerves suddenly relaxed. Arasawa Tatsuki subconsciously restrained his gaffe, and once again pretended to glance at the diary inadvertently. Cough, 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 cough. But at this glance, she suddenly choked again, and the little goodwill that had just recovered was suddenly pushed away by a cross vein on her forehead. I saw that this diary was written again. Long Gui's wife is also pretty good, she is totally different from Inoue's wife. Although the personality is like a tomboy, and the mind is not broad enough, but the skin is good, and the waist is thin, and the legs are strong. After all, who can refuse the temptation of the waistcoat line? It seems to use the tongue to measure it. Suck and suck. Boom, boom, boom. The blood vessels in Arasawa Tatsuki's forehead are about to burst. She really didn't expect that her vigilance could be relaxed so easily, and the slap in the face came so quickly. It's really a dog who can't change eating shit. This kind of man should be dragged to the beast way, and cut him back and forth with scissors 10,000 times, 10,000 times. She gritted her teeth in secret resentment. But at this moment, the teacher had already noticed the strangeness here, subconsciously turned around and looked at Inoue Orihime, who had just jumped up from his seat with an inexplicable expression on his face. "Student Inoue, what's wrong with you? Why did you stand up suddenly?" I'm fine. Just now, a big fat worm flew by in front of me, but it has already flown away, gone away." Hearing the teacher's question, Inoue Orihime spoke almost subconsciously. Then, while talking, he hurriedly helped the stool up again and sat back down. One big fat worm. However, Shiraki grinned subconsciously, looked at the angle of his position, and after comparing it with the height of Inoue Orihime's innocent and pretty face, he subconsciously couldn't help but step back a little and take 2 steps back. But once again, looking at Long Gui not far away, he couldn't help showing a hint of complexity and sympathy, and said, "Well, speaking of it, Long Gui's wife is the most regrettable person, right? I have protected Kurosaki Ichigo since I was a child, and when the kid's wings are hardened and he can fly by himself, he will become the backbone of Inoue's wife. It's rare that Long Gui's wife is chivalrous and soft-hearted. As a mortal, not only is her fighting power super high, but she can even risk her life for her friends. But it is such a person who is full of others in his heart, but in the end he can only drift away from those friends who have gained abilities. Watching that there are fewer and fewer people around me, but I can't do anything, and I have to pretend to be indifferent. This kind of life, it must be very hard, right? Long Gui's wife is born to worry about her life. If she can be with me, I will give him a sky where she doesn't have to worry about her anymore. Such a perfect girl should not suffer such a lonely life." Shiraki's writing finally stopped here. But after reading all the text, Arasawa Tatsuki, who was so angry just now that he wanted to kill someone, seemed to have been drained of all his strength. Kiki froze in his seat. Maybe even she didn't realize how much she longed for 397 and cherished this kind of friendship now. In the past, after she helped the crybaby Kurosaki Ichigo regain her confidence a little bit, the sense of satisfaction and happiness is still fresh in her memory until now. But as he gradually grew up, I don't know when it started, that kid from Yihu seemed to grow up overnight. Not only do you not need to protect yourself, you can even beat yourself in fights. Since then, the two seem to have faintly begun to alienate each other intentionally or unintentionally. Yihu may want to get rid of his label of protected person. But she herself, isn't she trying to escape a kind of helplessness and confusion that seems to be unable to face the child who has grown up and no longer needs herself? Yihu left him, so he began to protect Inoue, who was also bullied with all his heart and soul. But looking at Shiraki's diary, I'm afraid Inoue will surpass himself one day and leave him, right? At that time, who should I protect? By my side. And who else can be like the two of them, who can make themselves laugh when they want and cry when they want without any scruples? I really didn't expect that in the whole world, the person who understands me best is this time traveler with a brain full of protein. But what if you were a common boy? How about a high-ranking Shinigami? Humanity, how could it be possible to be with Shinigami? In Arasawa Tatsuki's usually confident and sharp eyes, there was a trace of loss and bewilderment like never before. But at this moment, Shua, Arasawa Tatsuki, who was still depressed, couldn't help but startled. Because in her field of vision, Shiraki's side seemed to appear out of thin air, and there were 2 more figures, a man and a cat. Looking at these 2 figures, they all shook their heads helplessly after seeing Shiraki. Then, almost at the same time, a depressing voice came out. "No, Kurosaki Ichigo's house, Urahara Kazuki's, there is no trace of that kid or Madara Meshino." Oh, this time, Shiraki's eyes couldn't help flashing in surprise. Vaguely, he felt that the whole thing seemed to suddenly start to become complicated. I have to admit, although I already know this is a real world. Because of my appearance, the world plot has been completely different from the original one. However, the fact that Kurosaki Ichigo and Madara Meshino went missing really exceeded my expectations. The whole thought is spinning rapidly in the mind. Leng Kiki stood in the semi-suspended air above Karakura, and Shiraki habitually quickly sorted out in the diary. Now there is an unexpected situation, I have to sort out the whole context again. Shiraki quickly wrote, because of my intervention, Rukia's wife did not come to this world, and was able to escape the sad fate of being arrested and strangled into Uzumaki. However, Jingalingting sent Madara Meshino as a replacement. Judging from the situation of the original plot, the reason why Aizen wants to control Central 46 to capture Rukia, who should be stationed in the present world, is because he investigated the existence of Hogyoku in Rukia. And the existence of this Hogyoku should be hidden by Urahara Kazuki through the Yoshiko when Rukia asked him to borrow Yoshiko for the first time. Urahara Kazuki's original intention was to borrow the soul of a Shinigami to hide Hogyoku. Because of the common soul hidden in Hogyoku, the spiritual power will be suppressed beyond recovery for a period of time, so at that time, the weakened Rukia just met this requirement. But now the problem comes. Aizen pays attention to little strawberries, and discovered the particularity of a family by accident when investigating Hogyoku, so the subsequent series of shaping and cultivation started from this time. But the problem is, when Rukia first arrived in Karakura town, when she gave Yiwo her power for the first time and activated the power in his own body, Aizen didn't know the existence of Yiwo B. Then who arranged the previous series of coincidences? Don't tell me, a once-in-a-century void suddenly appeared in this world, who could hide Reiatsu and deceive Jingalingting's monitoring, and defeated Rukia steadily, and was even seriously injured to the point where he had to transfer his power to a mortal. And this mortal just happens to be a monstrous evildoer who has 3 powers, Shinigami, Quincy, and Shu, who have never been encountered in thousands of years. So many special elements come together, is it just a coincidence? Is this foolish enough to believe you? After writing this, Shiraki really gradually restrained his initial joking mentality, and began to seriously think about the whole world view. To be honest, because he has been unknown before, he had little impact on the plot. With the help of his own understanding of the original work, he really had an illusion of controlling everything and jumping out of the 3 realms. But looking at it now, I'm afraid it's really not that simple. As my little butterfly flaps its wings more and more times, the changes in the plot development of the whole world are getting longer and longer. With accidents happening again and again, Shiraki has gradually felt that his detached perspective may really be about to fail. That's right, the biggest boss at this stage is Aizen. It is he who wants to obtain Hogyoku from this world, and then open the Spirit King world to transcend into a god, and the growth of Kurosaki Ichigo is all a good show directed by him. But among them, to say that everything was arranged by him, Aizen, I am afraid that there are too many loopholes. In terms of intelligence, his second team is the real cause of aging in the entire Soul Society, and even in the world. He Aizen can send people to investigate secretly, or he can arrange quietly behind the scenes. But after all, how many people can he mobilize? Once the power of Hueco Mundo appears, it will be captured by the monitors of the 12th Division, and this is no exception even for Arankar at the Espada level. So what he can mobilize is nothing more than his own subordinates, plus some direct descendants of Ichimaru Jin and Tusen Kanami. With these people alone, can they really arrange all the things in the whole plot clearly behind the scenes? Urahara Kazuki escaped from hunting and hid in the present world. His purpose was to protect Hogyoku in his hand. How did Aizen know such a secret thing? If he, Aizen, knew the location of Urahara Kazuki, why didn't he come to this world and take Hogyoku away? And Kurosaki Ichigo, whose white body is Aizen's first successful Arankar subjects. It is nonsense to say that Kurosaki Ichigo does not have his calculations among the 3 energies in Kurosaki Ichigo's body. But if you want to say that all of this is the conspiracy of Aizen alone, I am afraid that you are a bit too overestimating him. After all, this incident back then not only involved his experimental body Baishu, but also Shiba Yixin at that time, who is now Kurosaki Isshin, the father of Kurosaki Ichigo, and the purest female of Quincy's blood today. Kurosaki Ichigo Kurosaki Masaki, the mother of Kurosaki, had to calculate that after Shiroku appeared just in time for Yhwach to launch the Holy Farewell. There are so many elements, but nothing less can make up Kurosaki Ichigo, such a special individual. It would be a bit too exaggerated to say that Aizen had already calculated that even Yhwach's Holy Farewell was initiated. Especially, Kurosaki Ichigo is such a special person. If Aizen already knew about him, why did he let him live in Karakura town for 17 years, instead of just starting his experiment? Therefore, After summing up so many doubts, Shiraki has reason to believe that Aizen discovered Kurosaki Ichigo, most likely after investigating Hogyoku on Rukia. But if we look at it according to this inference, it made Rukia come to the present world so accurately, and after being severely injured by Shu, he transferred his energy to Kurosaki Ichigo. I'm afraid this matter was definitely not his Aizen's handwriting. Tor, hiss, slightly took a deep breath of air. Shiraki was still thinking hard. But he didn't notice that right next to him, Shihuin Yoruichi, who was still in the state of a black cat at this time, in a pair of amber eyes, his eyes had gradually begun to become complicated. Shiraki's diary is not finished yet. But I am afraid that among all the girls who can see this content, only she can understand what Shiraki means. Hogyoku from Madara Meshino, Reiatsu who can deceive the technical bureau, special target Kurosaki Ichigo who happens to appear. Apparently, though Shihuin Yoruichi was never involved in any of it. But at this moment, she still locked on a person very accurately. In her cognition, she may be one of the people who are closest to her now. Urahara Kazuki. Yes, she thought she already knew that man well. For the sake of the overall situation of the Soul Society and to defeat Aizen, the former man was willing to take the wrongdoing and run away from home. Yoruichi, who already knew the truth, was willing to give up everything he had. We should also help him sneak into the present world to hide, and hide for more than 100 years. For more than 100 years, that man has treated her in every possible way, and she gradually thinks that she has become the closest friend of that man. But after Shiraki reminded him, he realized that it seems that man doesn't seem to see himself as the most trustworthy person at all. Do you still need to ask? Why can a common virtual can fool the technical bureau's Reiatsu test? As the former director of the technology bureau, who else can easily do this besides him? Why did Rukia meet Kurosaki Ichigo so precisely and give him his Shinigami power? You know, whether it is Hogyoku or Kurosaki Ichigo's particularity, there is only such a person in this world who clearly knows all the details of it from beginning to end. Urahara Kazuki, is that really you? I think back then even if I betrayed my family, I would protect you to this world. We have been together through ups and downs for so many years, we have gone through so many hardships together, but you still don't trust me until now. It felt like my whole heart was about to be torn apart. Shihuin Yoruichi didn't hate Urahara Kazuki for doing so many things behind his back. She hates the other party. After doing so many things behind the scenes, she is still hiding it from herself until now. In vain, I have already abandoned so many things for him. What are your difficulties? Can't you tell me what you think? Mao Mao's chest gradually rose and fell violently, and even her frail body began to tremble slightly uncontrollably. But right next to him, Shiraki, who was always immersed in his own analysis, of course didn't notice these, but continued to write seriously in his diary. Urahara Kazuki. If I'm not wrong, this guy must be behind everything. Although in the eyes of outsiders, Urahara Kazuki is completely different from the current crazy Kuretsuchi Mayuri. One is rational, one is indulgent, one is taking care of the overall situation, and one is unscrupulous. But I'm afraid no one knows. In fact, the two of them are the same kind of people from the underlying logic. That is, in order to achieve the goal in mind, you can completely give up any bottom line and principle at all costs. When Shiraki said a word, Kakuzu couldn't help but twitched Yoruichi next to him. She knew that Shiraki's analysis couldn't have been more correct. Having been with that man for more than 100 years, no one knows better than her what kind of person he is. Just see, Shiraki continued writing. There is a saying that if you are not crazy, you cannot become a Buddha. 3.7. Kuretsuchi Mayuri is cruel and cold. During the years in charge of the Technology Bureau, he has dissected the Quincy, studied the virtual, analyzed the Zanpakuto, and even carried out scientific research on the living Shendu. In the eyes of outsiders, this is a lunatic who can give up all humanity for his own curiosity. But you have to know that even though he is so crazy, he has never researched a Hogyoku that can break through all evolutionary limits and even manifest his will. God knows how crazy that guy Urahara Kazuki will be. What kind of paranoid and crazy soul is hidden under his cynical skin? After some analysis, Shiraki frowned slightly, subconsciously and almost instinctively continued to write. Now back to the immediate question. If we analyze according to the above conditions, if Kurosaki Ichigo is not at school or at home, then the most likely place for him to go should be Urahara Kazuki. But Yoruichi Kitty Mouse said that Urahara Kazuki didn't have it, could it be? Accompanied by a long series of ellipses, Basin seemed to inadvertently glance at Yoruichi next to him. But at this moment, Yoruichi's nose couldn't help but feel sore. Sure enough, I was still suspected by this guy. Yes. Anyway, it was because of that man that he defected from the family back then. For so many years, she has indeed always been by that man's side. Now that man has the biggest suspicion. If he were Shiraki, he would immediately think that he was cheating with that man, right? I am really wronged, because there is no way to talk about the diary, so if Shiraki just doubts and doesn't ask, Miss Yoruichi won't even have a chance to explain. She couldn't say. She thought how much wrong she had suffered because of that man back then. She couldn't say that she had been with that man for so many years, foolishly thinking that they were each other's confidants, but now she realized that everything was just a scam. She can't even say. Just now, just because she knew the character of the other party, how much effort she spent in that store, how much hard work she put in to find clues, but she still got nothing. All this, she can't say. She can only watch her former best friend betray her, but now another friend has doubts about herself. At this moment, Shihuin Yoruichi, who is used to being fearless, even had a layer of snow in his gloomy cat eyes. But everything can't be explained at all. She could only grit her teeth tightly and stare at the words in the diary without saying a word. Since it is already like this, she wants to see Shiraki with her own eyes and write out his doubts about herself. She wants to see with her own eyes how the friend she just got will make her feel miserable. After hesitating for a moment, I saw the words on the diary quickly surfaced again. Could it be? Urahara Kazuki tricked Kitty Mao. Come on, let the cat bear all the damage. Anyway, it's already like this. Anyway, Suddenly, Yoruichi, who was still gnashing his teeth, froze. Seeing the words appearing in the diary, her breathing suddenly began to become more and more rapid, and there was even an uncontrollable low, grunt, sound in her throat. But Shiraki continued to write in his diary. Little Mau Mau thought that the reason why he was willing to rebel against the family for Urahara Kazuki back then was because he couldn't understand the big family's bullying of the low-level people and the life that seemed to be bound in a cage. So he helped Urahara Kazuki to resist the power, so today he will never help Urahara Kazuki because of his use of others. Furthermore, based on Kitty's understanding of Urahara's house, it's likely that he has gone through all the places where people can hide in his house, such as the large underground space or checking whether there are traces of using some spirit tools that open up the space, etc. In other words, if she didn't find a family in Urahara Kazuki, either because of the disappearance of a family, maybe it really has nothing to do with Urahara Kazuki. Or, it is Torahara Kazuki, and there are other ways to hide a family of two people without anyone noticing. After all, with his means, there are too many ways to hide a person. Hoeko Mundo, Boundary Breaker, and even his skeleton that can suppress spiritual power. If he really wants to hide someone, I'm afraid he won't be able to find any clues without using the large army of the headquarters. At this moment, the kitten is about to shed tears. In this short period of time today, she almost experienced several ups and downs in her mentality. She never thought that the man she had trusted for more than 100 years would actually deceive herself. And what she didn't expect was that this guy, whom she had only known for a few days, actually understood and trusted her to an unbelievable level. For a moment, Kitty Mau Mau felt a warm current from the bottom of her heart quickly sweeping through her whole body. This feeling is so relaxed, but also so practical. It was a sense of security that she had never felt in her hundreds of years of life. She could let go of all pretense. It seems that if we want to find Kurosaki Ichigo and Madara Meshino, we will definitely not be able to find a needle in a haystack with just the three of us. With a slight sigh, Shiraki's voice immediately attracted the attention of a person and a cat. There was a complicated flash in Yoruichi's eyes, while Rukia's attitude was more of a worry. After all, it was Central 46's idea to send them here. If this mission fails, God knows what kind of cruel punishment awaits them. It's just that, although Shiraki said there was nothing he could do, the expression on his face was not anxious at all. After pondering for a while, his eyes suddenly focused, and he looked down casually. At this time, Karakura No. 1 Advanced Middle School has already rang the bell for dismissal. Accompanied by a group of boys and girls laughing and clamoring, they swarmed out of the teaching building. Shiraki pointed lightly. The second daughter hurriedly looked in the direction of his finger. I saw that among a group of students, 3 girls walking in the corner seemed so special. Looking at these 3 girls again, one is heroic and full of heroism. The one with pair of eyes was squinting lewdly and kept licking the last girl's body with both hands. And right next to it, a girl with orange hair has a pure smile on her face, and 2 polar bears try their best to show their ferocious nature. But looking down, the pupils of the 2 girls shrank in unison. Just above the girl's smooth calf and ankle, there was a dark red scratch that seemed to be left after being scratched by some huge beast. Then, is that the trace of shoe? Yoruichi was well informed, and suddenly couldn't help but exclaim. But Shiraki next to him, with the corners of his mouth that was originally as tight as a knife, has started to rub upwards slightly at this moment. Yes, since we can't find them on our own initiative, we can only try to take a look. Will they take the initiative to come to us? The sky gradually dimmed. The sky above Inoue Orihime's small building. The 3 of Shiraki, Rukia and Yoruichi were just so far away. Reiatsu was suspended in a black shadow. It seems to be waiting for something. Yes, this is what Shiraki came up with temporarily, not a solution. Wait for a family to show up. In fact, when he first met Inoue Orihime, Shiraki noticed the claw mark on her ankle. He knew that it was Inoue Orihime's big brother Inoue set left. Now the plot is completely messed up. According to the original plot, the ghost transformed by Inoue Hao will attack Kurosaki Ichigo immediately. After being defeated and injured on his side, he became mad, and after running away, he would attack Inoue Orihime instead. But right now, Kurosaki Ichigo has been missing for several days. Shiraki couldn't tell if Inoue Hao had attacked Kurosaki Ichigo at all. But now that he saw the claw marks, he knew that the other party would definitely come to attack Inoue Orihime at least tonight. Now it's nothing more than to see if Kurosaki Ichigo knows about Inoue Hao. As the Shinigami who is stationed in Karakura town by Jinglingting, as long as Karakura town appears, Madara Mushino will definitely receive an alarm. And with Kurosaki Ichigo's personality, if he knew that Inoue Orihime would be attacked, he would definitely not sit idly by. Therefore, without knowing where the other 2 are hiding, it's far easier to sit here and wait for a rabbit than to search for a needle in a haystack aimlessly. Of course, this is also the reason why Shiraki told Rukia and Yoruichi after deleting some information. Hey, this silly girl Inoue Orihime is pitiful. Although the house of Inoue's house is not small, except for a soft light leaking from the window in the corner, the other rooms are all completely dark. Seeing that in the room, Inoue Orihime was boiling the boiling water for instant noodles alone, but his face was still filled with a silly smile. Shiraki couldn't help but casually took a picture of this sad but extremely warm scene. Then he wrote in his diary with emotion. Water has source and tree has root. Manga readers always feel that Inoue Orihime is a blind virgin, indecisive, or a scammer who cheats his teammates. But if we trace the root cause, isn't her idealism and simple thinking in adversity also forced by life? Inoue Orihime's parents died since he was a child, and he has always lived with his big brother. He was also bullied by his classmates since he was a child. But even so, the cruel reality still used a car accident to take away her last relative in this world. Inoue Orihime is actually weak by nature, not strong. But when the burden of life really falls on her alone, what will you do if you make her a girl with a pure personality? Complaining about others, or going to extremes in order to obtain more resources. Becoming hysterical and full of anger. Life is painful. In this case, with her weak temperament, she may only choose to ignore some unsolvable problems, and then force herself to only look at the bright side of everything. Only in this way can life continue to live in peace and stability. In fact, people who read the story always hope that the protagonist can rise from adversity and overcome all injustices imposed on him, because this kind of plot is the most enjoyable and resonates with readers. But real life is not a refreshing text. How many people really have the courage to break all shackles and challenge all injustices? And girls like Inoue Orihime who don't have the courage to break the boat. Aside from forcing herself to be optimistic, forcing herself to muddle along and be a pure optimist, what other way does she have to face the countless problems in life that cannot be solved at all? Shiraki's words were written with emotion. For a while, he also seemed to recall the common people he had known who were struggling in real life. But he didn't know, after reading these words, Unohana Retsu, Matsumoto Rengaku, Sui Feng, Aiz Nanao before the copy of the diary, and even Rukia and Yoruichi in the present world. The eyes that originally had their own temperaments couldn't help being blurred for a while. It seems that they have recalled their past, the most difficult life that originated. Whose life can be smooth sailing? As the adopted daughter of a big family, Rukia Kuchiki has been looked down upon and neglected by her family members since she was a child. Even with his own hard work, he finally became a member of the Shinigami, but in the end he didn't get a word of praise at all. Shishu's family is a matriarchal clan, and all the men who marry into the family die young, but Shishu's mother just married Jingle Chunshui's big brother for love. As a result, even after leaving the family, Aiz Nanao's father died prematurely. After her mother was forced to take her back by the tribe, she died of hatred, leaving the young Nanao alone. Later, a big sister who was willing to treat her tenderly, Yamaru Lisa, disappeared inexplicably more than 100 years ago. Rengaku was born in the poorest Rukongai when he was young, and he suffered a lot when he was a child, otherwise Ichimaru Jin would have starved to death with a piece of persimmon. And Sui Feng has been strictly trained by Shihuan's family since he was a child. It seems that the relationship between his parents has become a distant memory when he wakes up in the middle of the night. Perhaps it is true that those who achieve great things must first work hard on their minds, toil their muscles and bones, and starve their bodies. These seem to outsiders to have reached a very high level of achievement. Almost everyone among the female elites had a lonely and helpless childhood of suffering. And even strong men like Unohana and Yoruichi, if they recall, there were times when they were helpless in their own past. So at this time, in the photo taken by Shiraki, there is a girl who manages everything by herself, but always has a happy smile on her face. For some reason, these female heroes who were obviously much stronger than Inoue Orihime couldn't help softening their gazes for a while, and even their originally tense expressions can't help but gradually relax. Yes, they all had such simple and hardworking years. And fighting all the way to this position, everyone knows how much they have violated their conscience. Or something dark as a last resort. So, in the face of a girl who is still able to work hard and maintain a pure heart even though she has been devastated by life, what reason do they have to criticize each other's idealism? Ding dong. Suddenly, a crisp doorbell broke the silence of the night. The three of Shiraki were shocked as if they were suddenly awakened, and then they broke free from the immersion of memories. The three hurriedly looked towards the door. At this moment, Inoue Orihime, who heard the doorbell, I ran out in a hurry, opened the 947 door and saw that it was my friend Arasawa Tatsuki who had just parted for a long time. Hi, it's Longui Zhang. Inoue's always happy voice sounded from the door. Inoue, this is my mother's stewed beef. My mother said, if I don't come, you may have to eat instant noodles again by yourself. Longui was not polite. He changed his shoes and walked into the house while holding the small steaming basin in his hand. Inoue Orihime was also gone. Seeing the beef in her hands, the whole face was completely happy. Obviously, it was not the first time that the two families had dinner together like this. Seeing this scene, the tense hearts of the three of Shiraki couldn't help but let go. Shiraki's eyes softened slightly, and he subconsciously took another photo and wrote, perhaps, this is the so-called, you can lose your horse, but you don't know it's a blessing. Because Inoue Orihime is pure-hearted and doesn't like to care about gains and losses, she has made a few good friends who can really trust, which makes her lonely in difficult years. Instead, he got the care from his friends. The old saying is good, but do good deeds, don't ask about the future. Don't do good because it's small, don't do evil because it's small. Most people in this world have the ability to tell whether a person is sincere or not. So, instead of considering a person's likes and dislikes with a purpose, it is better to really open your heart, care for others and help others without purpose. Perhaps in this way, it can often achieve twice the result with half the effort. Shiraki expressed his emotions again casually, then gathered his energy, and began to search the surroundings seriously for Reiatsu who belonged to the virtual. In any case, I use Inoue as bait for Kurosaki Ichigo and Madara. If they don't show up all the time, I can't really let Inoue Orihime and Arasawa Tatsuki do anything wrong, can I? But then again, there are two people who have already played Shunpo to Ultimate, myself and Yoruichi. I'm afraid it's even more difficult to make a common void, right? The night wind is getting colder. The rustling of leaves came from all around from time to time, which further set off the silence of the night. Originally, Shiraki wanted to hear what the two girls were talking about, to see if they could reveal some clues about Kurosaki Ichigo and the two of them. But after a while, he discovered to his dismay that these two girls really speak nothing when they eat and sleep. The two ate around a pot of beef with relish, but none of them even said a word. In fact, Shiraki really doesn't know. Since the copy of the diary, the girls Inoue Orihime and Arasawa Tatsuki generally seldom communicate with their mouths when they are alone. After all, the reaction speed of the brain is much faster than the sound. The two communicate privately in the friend column, and the thoughts in their minds can be converted into text and transmitted to each other's mind in an instant. After the other party's brain receives the content, it will absorb it in place in an instant, and then send out feedback. This kind of efficiency is like the spiritual communication in Legendary, which is much more convenient than talking with your mouth. Shish, what? You said that Shiraki-kun was standing in front of me at that time. Still trying to touch my call. With a scream in his consciousness, Inoue's little face, hot, almost burned into a hot water pot, and the top of his head couldn't help, hot, and started to smoke. But even so, she still didn't forget to ask her most concerned, soul-deep question with a curious expression on her face. Nana, that Shiraki-kun, what does he look like? Is it a young and handsome boy? Or a middle-aged and cold uncle? Seeing that Inoue could ask such a heartless question at this time, Longwei really rolled his eyes helplessly. Then simply right, not a handsome guy or a promising uncle, but a sloppy tramp. Wearing a ripped vest and shorts, covered with long hair, with hair and beard all glued together, the kind that still has a clear nose and thick phlegm. As if to relieve hatred, he replied a little viciously. But after finishing this paragraph, Longzi Yugi softened the anger in his eyes, as if inadvertently. That man, although her behavior was really unacceptable to her, but in fact, in terms of appearance alone, it was really enough for any little girl to fall in love with. Especially what he said when he saw himself. To be honest, Arasawa Tatsuki has always played the role of big sister head of his peers because of his strong personality since he was a child. Whether it is Inoue or Yihu, when she protects the other party, she does gain a kind of satisfaction and joy after giving for others. I can think of what that person said. Now that one family has disappeared, it seems that Inoue will gradually go away. There will be fewer and fewer friends around me, and I will gradually become more and more lonely. Just thinking about it, Arasawa Tatsuki suddenly felt an unconcealable loss and helplessness in his heart, subconsciously couldn't help but raised his head, and looked at the girl opposite him with a little worry. Then, well, with a groan, the corner of Longwei's mouth twitched slightly. The sudden sadness just now was instantly dispelled by the look of Inoue in front of me. At this moment, Inoue Orihime, who was right in front of him, sat on the tatami as if he had petrified. His face was full of sluggishness, his small mouth was drooling, and his eyes were already full of a look of lovelessness. Sloppy tramp, still with snot, ha. Snapped. Responsible Longwei was so depressed that he couldn't help but slapped himself on the forehead. I thought in my heart that I shouldn't bother you. A pure playboy pervert, what is it worthy of your concern for him? Sure enough, it would be right to call him a sloppy alcoholic, which will also make you give up early. For a pure and innocent little girl like you who is easy to deceive, if you know that guy is so handsome, why don't you take the initiative to find him in your arms? But suddenly, Arasawa Tatsuki was still depressed, and only heard a soft sigh from the opposite. Longwei quickly restrained his mind and raised his head. At this time, although Inoue Orihime was still pure and lively, there was a hint of disappointment in his big watery eyes, and he murmured. I'm so envious that Longwei can see ghosts. Look at what that Shiraki-kun wrote. They are in the ghost world, a wonderful world completely different from ours. Looking at the way he wrote, it seems that a family of classmates also disappeared because they were involved in that world. I don't know if the big brother has gone to that world. If we can go there, will we find him? Inoue Orihime's voice was lingering, and as the words came out, she couldn't help but look downcastly at the photo of her big brother on the altar table at home. Seeing the little girl's inexplicable melancholy, Yulong subconsciously opened his mouth. But until the end, he didn't say a word. Unlike the simple-minded Inoue Orihime, Arasawa Tatsuki has been self-improving since she was a child, and her experience in society is much better than Inoue's. In the past few days, because she was looking for Kurosaki Ichigo, she carefully read the copy of Shiraki's diary from the beginning. Obviously, if compared with the present world, the world over there is actually more like a hierarchical society with distinct classes in ancient times. There are nobles, warriors, and the poor who are starving at the bottom. In addition, because they have personal, superpowers, far beyond the present world, it is conceivable that in that world, the battles between the big men are very likely to cause devastating casualties to the common people with just a wave of their hands. To be honest, if we only look at the situation described in the diary, she, Arasawa Tatsuki, does not desire such a world at all. It was a world that only belonged to the elites. In such a world, let alone the so-called human rights, the little people in common may not even be able to protect their own lives. In fact, since she was a child, the precocious Long Gui had thought that she didn't really expect the so-called afterlife. The reason is simple. If people will go to a place similar to the real society after death, then as long as there are differences in people's force, intelligence and wealth, then it is doomed that most people will not get real happiness. Regardless of whether there are laws or not in that world, it will be the same as the real society, which is essentially just the law of the jungle. But if the afterlife is a heaven, without pain and sorrow like the one written in Western teachings. So without the comparison of pain, will happiness really be so happy? Like I'm dying of thirst right now, so I'm only happy when I drink water. But if I stay in the water all the time, I am afraid I will only get bored with the water, right? Just like people in this world live in the air, under normal circumstances, who would feel that they can breathe fresh air at any time and feel overwhelmed with happiness. Of course, the conversation between the two girls in the room was not heard by the three Shiraki who were hidden far outside. Because at this time, it was almost visible to the naked eye, the expressions of the three of them had gradually become serious. Reiatsu in the surrounding air! Exclamation mark. Hide it well, it is very likely that Inoue Hao is here. Sensing Reiatsu approaching, the three hide in Inoue Orihime's room in front of Arasawa Tatsuki and Inoue Orihime. The three of them suppressed their Reiatsu fluctuations to the minimum. Avoid being discovered by Inoue Hao's hollow, and most likely Kurosaki Ichigo. The current Reiatsu fluctuations of the three are almost zero. As such, they, being Shinigami, are invisible to mortals. Shinigami, Shu, etc., also cannot perceive them through Reiatsu. Coming. When Rukia and Yoruichi were still vigilant, Shiraki suddenly called out to remind Yoruichi and Rukia. Yoruichi looked at Yoruichi strangely. Although there is a gap in their strength, they are similar, why hasn't she observed anyone yet? Under the observation haki with a coverage of 1,200 meters in Shiraki, there is an empty void in the chest, facing the direction of Rukia and Arasawa Tatsuki. Walking with heavy steps, because of frequent use, his observation haki is also slowly strengthening. In his observation haki, the masked Shu, who is several meters tall, walks on the streets of pedestrians like a walking dead. Several children passed by him, but he didn't even notice it. The goal is very clear. I don't know whether it is instinct or human-guided factors. Inoue Hao takes one step at a time, and the frequency of steps is slow, but due to his tall stature, his speed is equivalent to that of a common human man trotting. In about 3 minutes, Inoue Hao will come to Inoue Orihime's room. At this time, Rukia and Yi had become tense. Shiraki, the human named Kurosaki Ichigo hasn't come yet, wheel. The two of them were already 100% sure that Inoue Hao was after the big girl in the living room. As for the two common human girls, facing Shu, it only takes a moment of contact to die. Don't worry, Kurosaki Ichigo will definitely come. Compared to the two of them, Bai Yun was extremely calm. As the protagonist, you must enter the arena with a stopwatch. Otherwise, what's the point? At this time, Inoue Hao has come to the intersection 100 meters away from Inoue's house. In Inoue Hao's line of sight, Inoue's house can already be seen. You can even see the cheerful figures of the two girls through the glass window. With a meaningless cry, Inoue Hao walked towards the two girls with heavy steps. But at this moment, Inoue Hao's speed changed from a small run to a galloping train. A big hand was already aimed at the window. At this moment, both Yoruichi and Rukia's fists clenched secretly. Shiraki's heart skipped a beat. A boy wearing a black uniform bumped into his color perception circle. As soon as he appeared, Shiraki felt that this boy was unusual, and he seemed to be surrounded by domineering colors. Tisk tisk, as expected of the protagonist, it's only been a while, and his strength is close to the level of the vice captain. Fortunately, I opened it, otherwise I would have reported it. While Shiraki was still in the heart, Inoue Orihime, who was outside, suddenly turned straight, still sucking noodles in his mouth, and looked towards the window. Outside the window is normal, whether it is the leisurely Luyun in the sky, or the vague voices of people talking in noisy cars. Both symbolize that everything is normal. The noodles splashed out some of the soup, and it all slid into Orihime's mouth. Just when Orihime was about to work hard, there was a crisp cracking sound in his ear. Then, under her horrified gaze, the glass of her house shattered into hundreds of shards. A big invisible hand grabbed Orihime's body. At the critical moment, a boy descended from heaven like a god, and landed in front of Orihime. In the boy's hand, holds a zanpakuto that resembles an exaggeratedly sized kitchen knife. The air wave exploded, and the sleeves of Kurosaki Ichigo fluttered and fluttered. Kurosaki Ichigo turned his head and looked at Orihime, who was in a daze. Longui, Orihime, are you all right? Yoruichi and Rukia, who were hiding in the next room, breathed a sigh of relief. Shiraki gave the two of them a disdainful look. There is no aura of unchanging color in front of the collapse of Mount Tai. Yoruichi, wait for Kurosaki Ichigo to solve that Shiho, you will follow behind that Kurosaki Ichigo, and we will follow the clues to find Madara Mushino. Now that Kurosaki Ichigo has been found, they only need to follow Kurosaki Ichigo, and in all likelihood, they can find where Madara Mushino is. Okay, Yoruichi, standing on Shiraki's shoulder, nodded his head. Originally, Yoruichi could go directly to Urahara Kazuki and ask Madara Mushino for information. But now Yoruichi is not sure if Urahara Kazuki will be sincere to himself. Rukia, don't show your head, the Black Knight Ichigo can see us. Shiraki whispered to remind Rukia, who wanted to look over the situation. If Kurosaki Ichigo finds out that there are 3 uninvited guests hiding among his friends, he still doesn't know what will happen. Most importantly, Kurosaki Ichigo will be wary of the 3, and it will be difficult to keep track of them at that time. In order to show the greatest respect to the children of the world, after Kurosaki Ichigo approached, Shiraki turned off his own observation haki. Now, like Rukia and Yoruichi, he puts his ear against the wall and listens to receive information. Ichigo, is there something in front of us? Arasawa Tatsuki's horrified voice. This thing is called Void, you can't see it, but don't be afraid, I will protect Qian Zhao Yu. False. Orihime's voice was dumbfounded and confused. Continuous loud sound. It should be the ghost formed by Kurosaki Ichigo and Inoue Hao, fighting fiercely with each other. Ichigo is careful, do you want to help? No, just be careful with Orihime. Woo, my house. Ah, sorry, I'll be more careful. It seems to be easy to deal with. Shiraki leaned against the wall, thinking secretly. Rukia and Yoruichi also judged the situation based on the sounds outside. After about 30 seconds of fighting, the huge sound disappeared. The 3 knew that it should be Kurosaki Ichigo who solved the void. Big brother, an unbelievable sound. It was the voice of Inoue Orihime. Judging from the extremely surprised voice, it seemed that he had seen some unbelievable picture. Orihime, I finally see you. An unfamiliar voice, full of exhaustion, guilt, and deep nostalgia. Yoruichi Rukia deduced that Kurosaki Ichigo killed Shu with Zanpakuto, and Shu was purified. After the purification, the ghost changed back to the original human soul and reproduced the original appearance of Inoue Hao. Inoue Orihime's voice was full of tears. As soon as Shiraki heard it, he knew that Orihime's eyes must be covered with tears. Big brother, you didn't have a long time. While talking, Orihime couldn't continue. She clearly remembered that when she was 12 years old, her big brother left him because of a car accident on the way to work. Shiraki was squatting in the corner, listening to Orihime and big brother talking to each other for a while. Finally, Inoue Hao could no longer resist the pull of Soul Society, went to Soul Society, and entered reincarnation. So in the room, only Orihime's wailing was left. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.